second favorite iHeart radio station, Funny 820.
One of the most downloaded podcasts in the country is now on the radio. You're welcome!
This is Humble and Fred, only on Funny 820.
And now, the most downloaded podcast in Canadian podcast history, according to the most recently updated independently conducted research conducted solely by Humble and Fred. This is the legendary Humble and Fred Show, as performed by the independently conducted research firm of Humble and Fred.
Humble and Fred Radio!
Canada's national morning show.
Redhead senorita, look at that, kept a set, need a bed, and that's for no. So I give a drink of water, I'm gonna sing around the collar, and I don't need a microphone.
This is the legendary Humble and Fred Show, Canada's national morning show.
You are now about to witness the strength of street knowledge.
The following episode of Humble and Fred Radio is brought to you by FYI Music News, The Retirement Sherpa, Gig Sky, The Chambers Plan, Strain Print, Freedom Construction, Ringside MD, and Clear Air Solutions. If you'd like to talk to Humble and Fred, call 1-833-437-8465. That's 1-833-HF-STINK. And now from the Humble and Fred Queensway National Broadcast Center, here are Fred and Amanda.
Very well done. Yes, it's the Humble and Fred Show. But Howard isn't here this week. It's Fred and Amanda and Phil and Sean and intern Justin. You know, Howard, you won't be here all week. A much-deserved week off. That's what you always say, right? When somebody gets a week off, much deserved. Even though we've had most of the month off.
And last month, too.
And the reason this is much deserved because Howard is experiencing a dream. He always wanted to golf Cabot Links out in the East Coast and had the opportunity, so he went. And good on him, apparently. Are you familiar, Amanda, with Cape Breton Island and the beauty that it is?
Familiar from afar. It's one of those things where I've never hiked the Cabot Trail. I've never driven the Cabot Trail. I've certainly heard a lot about the Cabot Trail, but it's one of those things where when you live there, you don't take the time to do it,
right?
Kind of thing. Like, I'm sure there's sites in Toronto that you and I or any of us haven't experienced, but we tell people, oh, this is a good thing. You should go check that out. So that's how I feel. It's also very far from where I lived,
No, it's like that in Brampton with me. Carabram. They have it every year. Mm-hmm. And I've never been,
Cabot Trail is the Carabram of the Maritimes.
No, but it's beautiful out there. I've driven the Cabot Trail. Mm-hmm. I haven't hiked it, of course. I've driven it. And I've actually driven by, I think, the golf course that he's playing. Yeah. It's just so picturesque. It's beautiful. Darren Frost will be in after 8 o'clock. One of our favorites. Darren Frost is a guest. He always brings it. Apparently, he's got a new show coming up.
He does. It's really exciting, actually, this show that he's doing.
Why would it be exciting?
Well, I'm just looking at I sent it this morning in the package. I just want to make sure I get the guy that he's with, that name right, and it is Greg Morton. So he's doing a show in the fall. I think they're touring in October, around the East Coast, actually. Darren, maybe a few others. Greg Morton, who was on America's Got Talent, got 2 standing ovations.
Wow.
On America's Got Talent, which is really hard to do as a comic. Because you got to think, you're up against like a 5-year-old who can sing opera any day of the week on that show. Mm-hmm. So, so that's really exciting. And we want to hear his fresh, angry take on all the things.
Yeah, he'll explain it all after 8 o'clock. Now, we're going to get back to golf in a second because we had our great, what would you call it, our client golf outing on Thursday. Brett Tanner from the Chambers Plan. We went out with him. And would you say it was televised or it was streamed live? Okay.
As best we could have done, yes,
right,
for sure.
So we'll talk about that. But off the top, I just want to say this morning there was a major traffic issue. I got in the car, I forget what time, 5:30 or so, and I just happened to be listening to a brother station, News Talk 1010. John Moore was talking about a major traffic issue, and I thought, watch, it'll be right where I'm going.
Uh-oh.
And it couldn't have been any more where I was going.
Wow.
It was the 401 eastbound between Huron, Ontario and Dixie. apparently last night about 9:30. And the reason I bring this up is because of this. Let me just get back up a bit. Last night, driving home from the Tin Palace on the 407, the motorcycles weaving in and out. It was just unbelievable.
You know what? I drove home from the cottage last night too, and it was unbelievable, the motorcycles.
Where do and I'm going to say kids, maybe that's not fair. Where do they get their balls? I just don't get it. I said to Delise, I says to her at one point, I'm doing 130. That motorcycle just blew by me. That kid's doing 160, 170. He's got to be.
Yeah, it's insane.
How do you get on that little thing? One little bump in the road, one little pothole, aren't you done?
Ride a roller coaster. You know, if that's because you're not only are you taking your own life in your hands, but anybody who gets in any kind of altercation accident with you, that affects them. I had a friend in high school named Brooke Provencher, and she hit a guy who was on a motorcycle, and I can't remember who was on the right or not, but I think he was not in the right in this incident. Cracked almost every bone in his body and ended up in insurance claims for the rest of our high school. So for 3 years after that, she was a 16-year-old kid driving her dad's car, and for 3 years she was in and out of court with this guy. Yeah.
Well, my brother-in-law was seriously injured on a motorcycle. I don't know how much of it, whether it was his fault or not, but he pulled out and a truck had stopped. He hit the back of it, and he still suffers with a leg injury.
That's awful.
It's just you're so precarious on a motorcycle. Anyway, in and out. Anyway, I hear about this accident. Took place about 9:30 last night on the 401 eastbound. It was a Corvette, a red Corvette, they said, and it was weaving. It was like at a high speed weaving in and out of traffic, and you see that again all the time. And I wonder how, if it's 3 or 4 lanes and how a guy goes from the right lane over to the left lane.
Yeah.
Really quickly in between cars, really close, and somebody needs to tap their brakes, and it's disaster. Anyway, this guy last night weaving in and out, and he lost control, collided with a transport truck, which hit the medium, tipped over.
On the 401?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Tipped over, exploded, fire.
No.
The guy in the Corvette dead because he was in a big hurry. He was driving his big fancy car and trying to make some kind of a point. He ends up dead. A third car that just happened to be part of it, a 77-year-old man, he dies because of it. And now this morning, that's going to be tied up for hours apparently.
Oh, yeah.
And I take, it affected the 410 southbound, which was me, and the 410, that's a whole other story. Almost daily I'm cut off on that highway for the same thing. People impatient, in and out, weaving. And I often think, if I meet an early demise, it might be on the 410. I mean, there's a good chance. Like, I'll tell you, almost on a daily basis, something happens on that highway. It's crazy.
The way that they have wild differences in speed on the 410, that's the thing. There's a lot of slow people and a lot of fast people, and they don't mix very well.
I would like to know what the stats are on Sunday nights, because I feel like Sunday nights, especially in the summer, maybe this is just anecdotally, but I'd love to look at the Sunday night accidents, and that's all that cottage traffic, people coming back, so maybe more congested than normal on the major routes, and then suddenly some idiot decides they don't like that.
But sometimes congested is almost better.
Yeah.
Because everything's slowed down, and there's not the opportunity for the weaving and everything.
Right.
But I'm just thinking, my son Daniel, when he was a kid, he always wanted to get like a dirt bike, and I was always a little reluctant because I thought a dirt bike, he might graduate to a motorcycle. And I just thought, if that's my kid on the 407 last night on that motorcycle doing like 160, 170, I wouldn't know it obviously, but to think that, and to get that call, and because something's happened, and it was just very scary. Quite the traffic evening and morning. But again, it's just par for the course with where we live now.
Someone's dad died for no reason today, and 3 people are injured because of that one Corvette.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
These pictures are insane. I'm looking at this accident.
Yeah.
Ooh. God, is it still this morning? Like, have they cleaned it up?
Oh, no, because they have to do all the investigation.
Oh, my God.
Okay, happier times. On Thursday, we were out at Glencairn. As I mentioned, the golf client golf day with Brett Tanner, who's a great guy and has been a great sponsor of the show for going on 3 years now, I think. And it looks like he's going to continue, which is fabulous.
Has it been 3 years? Wow.
I think so.
Yeah, maybe. That's crazy.
And when a guy wants to go golfing with you, you sort of assume it's going to continue, right?
Sure.
It would be like...
I would.
Yeah. It's when you say, hey, do you want to go golfing? And they say, maybe not.
Yeah.
But you have to worry.
Well, I know this summer's really, we'll talk in October.
But so we went out there, and part of the deal was to have a live stream. And Justin and Sean looked after that. And it was fun because right from the driving range, we were on the driving range, Howard and I, and these guys show up. And they started streaming right away. And it was somewhat intimidating for me because when you're not proud of your swing...
Right.
Really, when you're not proud of your swing, you're not... I don't like people on the driving range to see my swing, let alone the people out there. So, what was the final product? How can people see this?
So
can you still see it?
Yes, the final product is coming up. We did manage to get a short live stream. The problem was actually because we were using our video, cell phones and everything
Cellular
to
data.
record this. Mm-hmm. We were having trouble with reception out on a golf course, obviously. Didn't think about that part. Mm-hmm. But there's the whole video. You can see you guys golfing for... it's 2 holes.
Yep, great, awesome shots. Mm-hmm.
And we got some good video the whole time while we were out there. So, I don't know, Justin here can speak about his nice slow motion takes that he managed to get of you guys.
I got a few good shots. The one I posted on our Facebook page, you can go check that one out. It's got a shot of both you and Howard, Fred.
No, I know.
Taking a nice slow motion shot.
I thought that was a nice slap shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. No,
Thank you, Phil.
No, I only saw your shot, by the way.
I thought they were both Fred.
Pardon me?
I thought they were both Fred.
Really? No, the first one's Howard. That's the how to, and then mine is the how not to.
Wait, no, which one? That's Howard, right?
No, Howard's on the left.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah. Howard shoots
wow.
right, and Fred's
So
the
look
lefty.
at the frame on the right. That swing. Watch what happens to the ball. I don't know. See?
That's Howard?
Yeah.
I really thought they're both you.
That's the one that I just sort of...
Yeah.
It's a worm burner, right?
Yeah,
Like it just sort of
bit.
screams along the ground?
A little bit, yeah. But it was the best slow motion shot that
I know.
had of you, so.
These are great.
Were there none with where I got the ball in the air?
No.
The cell cover stopped right there.
I got at least one.
So that can be seen on our Facebook page right now?
Sure can.
Because I hate to reference video without people being able to
There
see
it is.
Yeah.
But come on, if you didn't know, you guys were there, so you know that who's who. But to me, they're both Fred. So I think you should just take credit for them both.
I'm a little surprised because my backswing is a little fuller than it was. Or
it's your forward swing that, he can tell.
It's what?
I think that's what Howard was trying to give you some advice on there.
What do you mean
turning
by
over your hand.
Oh, I know.
Stuff like that. He was trying to help you there, but...
Are you a golfer?
I have golfed.
You have golfed?
Occasionally.
How about you,
I
Justin?
own clubs.
I do not golf very often.
But don't you do the swing thoughts
I do,
thing?
yes.
So you've learned probably a lot about golf.
I've listened to a lot. I know a lot mentally about the game.
You should see the clubs he had last week. It was great.
Yeah.
The bag from 1970s.
Right. And the clubs.
The assorted clubs.
The one iron.
The
wood
clubs.
handle.
Yeah, the wooden shafts.
Yeah.
But it was great because these guys did follow us for a couple of holes, and you can appreciate what a fine golfer Howard is.
Yep.
Amazing.
And we'll be making another video, too, because we did get that
Right.
third and fourth hole that we haven't put out there yet. So anybody on Twitch that wants to subscribe, go.
I didn't even make a joke there, and
Howard golfs a lot.
There you go.
And I would say he even...
I wanted to.
He tends to be modest.
Yeah.
Based on his ability. Like, he talks about golfing and having good scores and everything. But you don't fully appreciate it till you see it.
For sure.
Not only the visual, but the sound when the club hits the ball.
on every shot from the tee up on the greens. Like it doesn't matter.
He's like a national champion, right?
Yeah.
No.
He's like
Something
a 50,
like
provincial
ranked
semifinalist.
58th in the seniors of Ontario. That's a national champion, right?
Yeah.
No.
In my books.
Yeah.
Amanda, in sports you have to be the champion to be the champion.
You can't just say it?
No.
You can't just trump it?
No, but he's ranked like, what was it, 27th or something?
25th, I think, at some point. Yeah, he was tied for it.
Senior in the province, which is...
That's huge.
No,
especially Ontario.
It's not the champion.
Okay.
Yeah, he can't call himself the champion. He's a club champion at his golf course.
But like in Labrador, he'd be the champion.
Why?
Because who else can golf in Labrador? There's also 3,000 people that live there, but you know what I mean? Like
if you looked at the list of the 20, like he's ranked 27th senior in Ontario. Maybe if you looked at the list, nobody from Labrador would be between 1 and 26.
Well, my point
is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah, my point. The really dumb point I'm trying to make is Ontario, the population, it's the biggest competition, I would think, in the country. Mm-hmm. You know, maybe Vancouver because they have nicer weather overall in terms of golf, but ultimately that's your harder win up against everybody in Southern Ontario versus New Brunswick versus,
I get it.
You know, some of those
golf pretty big out east.
It is actually pretty big, but I'm talking Labrador.
Yeah,
I'm not talking out east. I'm talking Labrador.
And we should make that clarification that he was, I guess 27th Ontario senior.
Ontario senior Abs, yes.
And then in September he's playing in the national championship. So then he will be ranked nationally.
Hang on.
As a senior.
Wait, I need those September dates. Are we taking time off in September?
Oh, we are?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes.
I was going to say that means no work or a show like this.
The last week that I'm in Britain, he will be playing in the Canadian senior.
Oh, I'll have to book.
What is that?
Yes.
What are your British dates?
Oh,
we'll have to look this up during the break, right?
Yeah.
Is this fascinating radio, folks?
Yeah, on-air meeting.
Might go to Singapore.
I'm gone 23rd to the 14th. I think that last week leading up to the 14th. Anyway,
got it.
Further to Howard. Further to Howard in golfing. To spend the day on the course with him was fantastic because he's very... He said he just wanted it to be a fun day, but all the tips that he gave me, like, it was just unbelievable.
Wow.
To have, and he's often said, and it's true, he said, let me follow you around the course and I'll take 10 strokes off your game. And it's true. Not that he necessarily did on Thursday, because anything that I put in a bunker, a sand trap, we pulled out because they're like craters on the moon at that golf course. So he said, so your day's not ruined and you feel bad about yourself. If the ball goes in the bunker, we'll take it out. Which we did. Anyway, at the end of the day, I got a very, very generous 99. But believe me, it was well over 100. But we called it 99 based on taking the ball out of the bunkers and everything. But the patience he showed and the tips he gave me, it was amazing. Like, it really wants me to take... I would never take lessons from Howard per se. But it made me want to take lessons. And I would just say that to any casual golfer out there, with the right advice, it really can make you feel better about your game. Because I came away... What I wanted to do is I said, if I had a pad and pen during that round, which I should have, I could have made little notes. Because he gives me all these tips, and then I don't golf for 2 or 3 weeks, and then I forget about them.
Didn't you have a camera crew following you?
Yeah, well, it's a short little tip, too, that he gives you. Just something as simple as, like you were saying, turn your hand over as you're following through on your shot, and like that just changed his shot for that one shot in when we were in the driving range.
Yeah.
And so taking that onto the course and everything, and then he's still giving you more pointers and
watch the footage and then transcribe it.
No, yeah, I will. Yeah.
And that's a lot of work.
Yeah. No, but it was great. It was a great day. Thank you, Brett Tanner. He invited us out, and
they're good golfers.
Yeah.
Yes. That was Brett, good, fun to watch.
And Brett, he'd be around my age. But he's got some arthritic problems. He's got a back problem, and he doesn't have the most, it's a little non-conventional, his swing. But he shot like an 82 on that course. Howard shot, if Howard had sunk a short putt on the 18th, he would have finished 71.
How about that long putt there on the fourth or fifth hole too?
Yeah.
Right from the fringe,
Yeah.
right off the pin.
So to watch somebody when you're in a group of people and then people are playing par golf or just below, it's a thing of beauty, and I just have to say that because he talks about his golf, but I don't think you fully appreciate the beauty of it until you see it. And these guys saw it, and I saw it, and it was a great day. And thank you very much. Also, another great day yesterday here in Toronto at what do they call it? The Rexall Center, where we play
where the
tennis.
tennis stadium is at York University, right?
That's right.
Rogers Cup?
Yeah.
Are we talking?
Bianca Andreescu, the first Canadian in 50 years to win our own tournament. It used to be called the Canadian Open. Now it's the Rogers Cup. Did anybody see that?
No, I saw highlights.
Yeah.
I was playing bocce ball yesterday on the beach up at the Tin Palace, and I thought, what I'm going to do, I'm going to play bocce ball, and it'll be over probably... Well, it started at 1:30. I thought the match will probably go an hour and a half at least because women play best 2 out of 3. Mm-hmm. And I thought the way my schedule was, I said, I'll see the last half of the match. And then when I get back to the Tin Palace, I had found out it lasted only 19 minutes. Mm-hmm. And Serena Williams had to withdraw.
Right.
Because of a back injury?
Yeah, back spasms.
Yeah. Back spasms. But anyway, that was a very significant moment in Canadian sports. This kid, how old is she? 19?
19 years old. And Williams is 37.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this clip of Bianca, guys, I don't want to butcher this, Bianca Andreescu?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Did I do it right?
Mm-hmm.
Really? Sure. This clip of her and Serena Williams having that moment on the court is really a wonderful moment to watch.
Consoling.
Yeah, and also they're laughing.
Oh, yes.
Like Serena Williams sitting there crying, and she goes over there and just kneels and holds her hand, and they just chat, and they start to laugh. Mm-hmm. Like that's a great moment in sports this year. Like that's a really lovely moment. Just watching that, and I would love to play tennis. I don't care to watch it, but it looks cool to play because you get to hit a ball. But I don't, so I'm not really on the up and up, but I know a lot of people that are. And this is really just watching this moment, even if you're not into sports, I think you should look it up.
Well, the crowd goes into the stadium pumped because not only are they seeing a final with one of the, if not the greatest female player of all time, and a young Canadian kid, so you're pumped for the match, and you only get 20 minutes. Yeah. So, I mean, you're disappointed from that standpoint, but you're happy because the Canadian ends up being declared the champion.
Yeah.
Plus, you see a great moment like that. So I'm just thinking, how much those tickets are, I don't know. What's your mindset when you leave?
Oh, I think you get to go home, watch the news, and you just watched a moment in Canadian history.
And it was pretty merciful for Bianca because she was nursing a groin injury through the semifinals. So she had to take some medical breaks and stuff. Mm-hmm. And so the fact that she could win in that one end, right? One end.
Set.
Yeah, it's one set. She won 3-1, right? So, for Serena to just bow out.
Yeah.
Hadn't she done that before, though?
Yeah, she
Serena
has.
Williams?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
In a major tournament.
Yeah,
right in the championship.
Yeah, she's 37 years old. I mean, there's a lot of miles on that body.
That's when the arthritis sets in, kids. Take it from one who knows.
But it's interesting, isn't it, too, almost from a sexist standpoint, when Eugenie Bouchard, her sort of rise, all the attention she got, and a lot of that had to do with the way she looks. Let's be honest.
Look her up.
And then Bianca Andreescu has sort of had this rise and not really getting the attention.
No, you could get like one headline from her, but you wouldn't see anything sultry or sensual about her.
Well, you got a Betty and a Veronica here. This is what I'm looking at.
No, and the thing is, and it really wasn't fair because Eugenie Bouchard got all this attention. Like at the time, I'm even thinking it's over the top, and then she's with Sports Illustrated, the swimsuit stuff, and on and on and on. Now this kid comes up and actually wins a tournament, which Eugenie came close to, I guess, at Wimbledon one year. But now we have this champion. And it's, I don't know if you call that a major title, but it's a title. And she won it, and it's the Canadian title.
To a Canadian the first time 50 years.
And she's going to make lots of money.
Good for her. Good for her. Canadian feel-good story.
You're listening to Canada's comedy superstation, Funny 820. It's the Humble and Fred Show. After the break, we're going to talk to Amanda about being in the United States recently and the atmosphere down there, and is it as ugly as we all think?
Yup.
Now, Funny 820 traffic.
Perfect.
Well, you're still dealing with a lot of volume along your major routes. Now, if you're traveling
For some reason, the button always works the first break, and then
we do still have reports
nothing
on
else at the
crashing
end of
on
the
left
show.
lane. Just keep
Tell
this
me
in
which
mind,
shows
just
to
seeing a
beat
bit of
up.
volume.
Yeah,
If you're
okay.
traveling on
Well, you mean
Toronto
for
side,
sponsors, right?
Yeah.
Well, if you want to do your
Traveling to
pick
go
here,
over the
because
Belleville
Fred has
Saturday,
his half, and then we have our half
third line,
here.
and it's very
Okay,
safe
there's
to
seven.
Mississauga.
Okay.
Now, we still have this issue on the eastbound 401. The Express and Collectors is
I honestly
closed
don't
from here
care.
on Ontario
Just-
Okay.
Taxi. This is for an
Are you
ongoing crash
versed
investigation.
with the gigs guy?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, off the break, we'll do that.
I want to know
And I'll
if I
do
can do
Freedom.
Big Sky and
Now
my
until
cottage.
Friday,
That's what
August
I want.
16th, get
Why
20
couldn't
times
you?
the PCA
I don't know.
I want to, yeah, can I use
Oh, yeah, you
this guy
can.
in Caledon where I don't have cell phone reception?
You can, but there's easier ways to, like cheaper ways to roam, because the problem with GigSky is they use the same networks as you would use in Caledon, and also, like Rudra recommends against it only because of the price. Like it's meant for international.
No, I just,
Like
because I have to use my roaming when I'm in Caledon, there's no option.
I thought with Freedom you guys said, like Freedom you can.
Freedom's not out in Caledon.
No, you have to buy data. I thought it was cheaper to just buy roaming.
No, no. So
Not very free.
when I'm out there, it kind of
Well,
sucks.
it's free if you don't
I
live
have to go on my
in
roaming
Caledon.
data if I want to go on the internet at all. So check my email or anything. It works, but it's just that roaming.
You may find it in your home, in your basement, bathroom, walls.
Okay, we've got 3 minutes or so here. Just checking. I don't have the chart as usual.
So here's what I have. I have Gig Sky Sherpa Chambers. That works for you guys?
Okay.
Chronic health.
Whatever you want.
Oh, absolutely.
What are you doing?
I'll start in with Gig Sky.
Yes.
And then I've got Sherpa here.
Right.
And then Chambers Plans. You guys want to do Chambers Plans?
Air quality test. Leave it to the experts for the benefit of your health. Visit clearair
Honestly, you just tell me.
So I've got Freedom, Clear Air Solution, Ringside, and Screen Print. So you,
Well, I could take a cue from the both of you. Yeah.
Freedom
The
Construction
Chambers.
when you need general contractors who take care of all.
so right now you're doing Gig Sky when we come back, and I'll do Clear Air.
For builders and residential customers, and exterior carpentry is their specialty. Contact freedomconstruction.ca and choose a company built on quality, pride, and integrity.
Nice.
When you're sick, it can be hard to fight it alone. You want someone who's in your corner whenever you need them. Ringside MD in Burlington is now accepting new patients. Ringside MD
Who did
has
this
your
ad?
back
That sounds good.
with female
Oh, I think it's
doctors
820.
taking new patients
Sounds
now.
good.
Ask about their peace of mind plan and book your appointment today at ringsideclinic.ca. Ringsideclinic.ca. Ringside MD, now open in Burlington 6 days a week, with walk-ins always welcome. It's healthcare in your corner.
Hello, I'm Tim Niblett, the retirement Sherpa and a portfolio manager at Raymond James
Oh,
Limited.
Nibby.
For over 3 years,
Come here.
I've enjoyed being part of Humble and Fred's uniqueness, and while not exactly a Hundy P, I'm pretty close. I always say that my gig is helping out nice people in
the
an
best
important area
success
of life.
story, I think.
I've had the
We've
pleasure of
stuck
meeting
with
a
it,
lot
you
of
know what I
Humble
mean?
and Fred's listeners,
And
and
more.
working with many of
Well,
the
I just
valued
feel like
clients. It all starts with a
when
plan,
Sherpa
and I'd
started,
love to review
whenever it
yours.
was, 4 years ago,
Tim.Niblett
it was one of those things, we were all kind of figuring out the best alignment,
Right.
and then it like, he just kept finding hooks, and it grew, and his bass grew, and
But did you know you can also rent the studio? The H&F studio is
Phil,
available
yep,
for audio
you sound so
recording and
nice.
production.
What's up?
Podcasts.
You sound so pretty.
Oh, I recorded that in the basement of Woodbridge. With user experience and a wealth of knowledge.
It sounds like it with the music in the
production team at
background.
Humble and Fred are here to serve you. Email us at humbleandfred@humbleandfredradio.com
All right, let me
or
see
visit
here.
our website, humbleandfredradio.com.
We should be back in.
At Pioneer, we're always looking to give you great value on gas, so you have more to spend on other fun, non-gas
Yeah, elevator music.
And
They're
this
like
summer, spending less
hotel
on
room
gas
lobby
means you've
music.
got more money for thrilling, or more for delicious, or maybe more for brand new. That, of course,
Hello
is the
from
sound of
Jacksonville,
patio furniture.
Florida.
Fill up at your local Pioneer station first,
Really?
so you can
Yep.
fill up on the fun stuff
Ray
later. Pioneer.
Piasecki.
Savings at every
So
stop.
A message from
On
Canadian Blood
Facebook.
Services.
Oh,
We're live on
Reason
Facebook.
24 to join Canada's
Are we
Lifeline.
live right now? Just
There's
Yep.
an immediate need for O-negative blood.
called the universal donor. O-negative blood can be given to anyone.
When I was in
That's
Florida,
why
I
it's
loved
used in
listening to this
emergency
part.
situations.
Marco was like, "Do they know? Do they know that you're going to be on?" I'm like, "Yeah, they know. They know."
There are lots
Talking
of
about who's going to read what spot. I loved like the behind the scenes thing. I was feeling
Together, we are Canada's lifeline.
Fart.
Book now at blood.ca.
It's good we have a guest.
All right,
too,
off
to
we
get
go.
a little extra content out of it.
Yeah. Only on Funny 820.
Unplugged.
This is a new song I heard from the gym.
I like digging holes and hiding things inside them. When I grow old, I hope I won't forget to find them.
Yes, the Humble and Fred Show, Funny 820, out of Hamilton. But a huge signal that covers most of the southern part of the province. It's quite impressive. If you're watching on Twitch TV and Facebook Live, apparently. Wow.
Yeah, YouTube as well.
YouTube as well?
Yeah,
Really?
we're, like all over the internet.
That's cool.
It really is. And you can hear the show later today at humbleandfredradio.com. Of course, that is the podcast. Phil's here, Amanda's here, Sean, and intern Justin. Yeah, full complement. Good support staff. Anyway, Gig Sky. Tell us about Gig Sky.
Oh, I can't wait. Gig Sky is actually offering a world plan for iPhone XS, XR, XS Max customers with eSIM. So the world plan, folks, it allows customers to travel from North America to Latin America or any other region and use the exact same data plan. So you don't have to purchase a data plan for each region or country. The world plan will have it covered. And if you're like, I don't like iPhones, well, that's okay, because coming soon for the Google Pixel eSIM customers, we have the Gig Sky app available in the near future. So keep an eye on our social media for the announcement where the app is available. And always remember, for Humble and Fred listeners, you can use the HF500 discount code when purchasing your data plan to get a $5 discount on the data plan with a value of $20 or more. I'll be doing it from the cottage.
Nice one.
Uh-huh.
Clear Air Solutions, the official mold remediation company of the Humble and Fred Show. Asbestos abatement, including vermiculite. Yes, they do it all. You know, older houses probably have asbestos. So you might want to look into that if you have any idea or any inkling that you might have any of that rotten stuff in your house. ClearAirSolutions.com, fully certified, fully insured, properly trained professional staff. They've been around for 15 years. We used them here at the studio, and it was a great experience. ClearAirSolutions.com. So again, Howard's not here this week. He's out in the East Coast golfing, something he's wanted to do forever at Cabot. What is it? Cabot Links in Nova Scotia, a place he's always wanted to go. You last week were in the United States of America.
I was. I frequent the U.S., which is kind of a funny thing because, last week, there was a shooting or three, and Amnesty. It was Amnesty, right? International issued. There were a lot of travel warnings issued to going to the States.
Really?
Yeah. Japan, Liberia, Uruguay. A lot of them saying really be careful with your travel to the U.S., avoiding crowds, avoiding shopping malls, avoiding gatherings of large people. But then Amnesty came out, Amnesty International, saying that there was, and I can find it here, huge travel warnings.
A spike in gun violence, as they say, that might put you at risk.
So that would be like a travel warning you'd get like for Syria or something.
Sure,
100%.
or like Iraq or Afghanistan or...
Yep. And it's funny because, not funny, but we have this thing where, here, I'm going to read the Amnesty International Travel Advisory. United States of America. The Amnesty International Travel Advisory for the country of the United States of America calls on people worldwide to exercise caution and have an emergency contingency plan when traveling throughout the United States. This travel advisory is being issued in light of ongoing high levels of gun violence. So if you decide to travel to the U.S., this is Amnesty. Be extra vigilant at all times. Be wary of the ubiquity of firearms among the population. Avoid places where large numbers of people gather, especially cultural events, places of worship, schools, and shopping malls. Exercise increased caution when visiting local bars, nightclubs, and casinos. Goes on and on.
So what's the use of going?
Depending on the traveler's gender, identity, race, country of origin, Okay.
Origin.
Stop. Don't go to Oregon.
Okay.
Actually, Oregon, you're probably fine. Country of origin, ethnic background, or sexual orientation, they may be at higher risk of being targeted with gun violence and should plan
Okay, do
accordingly.
you think that's a little hysterical?
I don't know. What do you think?
Well, where does that come from? Is that a shot at the current administration? Like, is that a political thing?
Well,
it just seems a bit over the top.
I mean, but you say it seems a bit over the top, and then how many people were killed in El Paso because he was targeting immigrants, illegal immigrants? So that's your country of origin, ethnic background. Can't say it.
Country of Oregon.
Country that's not Oregon. Your ethnic background, because he was out to shoot Mexicans in a place called El Paso. Cool. But he was, who knows who guys? Who knows who he shots? Who knows who he shots? Who knows who? If you have a gun and armor, you're not asking people, where you from and where's your grandparents from and all of that.
No, but it's just whenever you go away, like I've, and even Syria is a bit of an extreme, but often when you go to Mexico, there will be warnings for whatever reasons. I mean, cartel, gunfire, getting caught in the crossfire, or stuff in the Dominican as far as sanitary, or that people dying from drinking water or whatever.
Tainted alcohol is the current one.
We're just not used to that in the so-called first world, having those types of warnings.
So here's my question: Is it hysterical? To use your word, is it hysterical, or would if any other country had that amount of gun violence, would that have already been issued?
Maybe.
Yeah,
that's a good question, and I can't answer it. Would what happened in El Paso and Dayton and Southern California, would that affect me going to the States? Probably not, because I'd play the percentages. I think, what are the chances? I mean, I'm more inclined not to go now just because of the atmosphere in the United States.
Right.
And even that wouldn't affect me. It's just whenever I think of the States now, I just think of divided, ugly, political civil war going on.
Polarized.
So when you're in Florida, you get a feel of any of that?
I'll tell you, the place that, I've said it before, the place that I'm most scared. So last week I was in Orlando. I work with conferences that take place at Disney Springs. So it's the Hilton Disney Springs is kind of where I live for a week. And I go and I visit my parents who live about an hour south of that. So when I was at Disney Springs, we had a night off that we got off a little bit early. So we went to Animal Kingdom because Marco hasn't seen that park. So we went to Disney's Animal Kingdom and had a fun time-ish. And then, but every night we go and eat at Disney Springs. So at Animal Kingdom, at any of the Disney parks, you're going to feel pretty safe. They're looking through your bag. They've got your fingerprints. They're doing a thorough check. Disney Springs, which used to be called Downtown Disney, and in Anaheim, in California, it is still called Downtown Disney. That area, that's sort of a place where you can go. Everything is Disney, and you can go and eat at the Rainforest Cafe or at Morimoto Restaurant or whatever.
Sounds horrid.
Some people love it. I've eaten now at every single restaurant in there because I'm there so much. That is where I'm nervous because you can walk. Yes, there's security there, but no one's checking your bag. You can walk right in. And if somebody wanted to get Disney, if they wanted to do, that's going to be the place that it happens. It's going to be. It's just a matter of somebody going in there and going, hey, there's huge crowds. There's a woman getting all the kids to do Frozen and singing Frozen. And there's this massive crowd and everyone's having, and it's Disney's Disney. And if and when, well, I don't want to say when, if that happens, all we'll hear on the news is Disney. You won't think, oh, but it wasn't Magic Kingdom or it wasn't Epcot. You're going to just hear Disney because they don't check. And why don't they check? In light of what happened, how could you possibly think it's a good idea to just let anybody walk into that park? But we did night after night. Yeah. So yeah, that's my little soapbox. But I do. And there's a place, there's an amphitheater in there, and I walk as far on the edge for this exact reason. There's a Ghirardelli. How do you say that? Ghirardelli?
Where? What is that?
It's that chocolate place from San Francisco.
Oh, right.
I think it's Ghirardelli. Yeah. Anyway, I walk as far to like on the edge so that I'm not with the crowd in case anything happens, because that's all it's going to take is one idiot to figure it out.
Well, exactly, and that's what sucks, because even though you play the percentages, you never know. And thing with the 24-hour newsreel now, we're just, we're a barrage of information and what ifs, as you're saying.
Yeah.
You can't help but be intimidated. So no matter where you go down there, even though the chances of it happening are very, very minute, you can't help but think, am I in the right or the wrong place at the right time or the whatever?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Totally.
And that's just not, and it's not fair. But I mean, you have a whole country somewhat intimidated now, and people still arguing that it's no big deal, including the president. You know what I mean? It's like, it's everybody get a grip now. Everything's going to be okay. This is isolated incidents. It really got nothing to do with guns. It's mental illness. And they keep telling you there's really no reason to worry, when in reality, you can't help but worry.
And how many have been stopped that we don't even get wind of?
Yeah.
Like I heard of a guy showed up at a Walmart in his full combat gear
That's right.
in Missouri, which looks like a copycat incident. And that's what they say a lot of them are. Somebody gets wind of it and says, oh, I'm going to go do it. And that's potentially how Dayton might have happened. And by the way, I've been on that street in Dayton, and that's the thing for me is when it starts happening in places that I spent a week here. Okay.
Right.
I have traveled. I'm American. I've traveled a lot in the States and worked a lot in the States. So, I don't think this amnesty thing is historical. For me, if it was Indonesia, it would have happened a long time ago, or anywhere else. This was if you had that amount of gun violence in the Philippines, those travel advisories would have been there a long time ago.
It's interesting last week as well, because the typical Trump stuff. Out of the gate, he's all for background checks and the red flag, whatever that is, which all makes sense. And then the NRA comes out and makes a statement saying, you better watch, to the president basically, you better watch, you better watch your step.
Unbelievable.
You can only go so far, and then he takes a step backwards. So, ultimately, and then he goes on holidays for 2 weeks or whatever. So, ultimately, nothing is going to change. Although one thing did change, which I laughed at yesterday. Walmart apparently has taken a bunch of violent video games off their shelves.
Oh, interesting.
But haven't done one thing about guns. Not one gun comes off the shelf.
Huh.
But a bunch of video games come off.
Because they sell guns too, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah,
bullets
oh
and
yeah,
everything.
yeah, oh yeah.
Did the Walmart shooter get his guns at Walmart? Do we know?
Oh,
Never know.
Could have.
Never know.
Could have.
But it's just hilarious. So, in that charge to blame video games is quite amusing too.
Yeah.
That's been proven that not to be true.
Yeah, but
very true.
But you know what? The odd time it could be true. But again, that's not the problem. And yes, is it mental illness? Yeah, then do the red flag thing. That's great. Or increase background checks. It's become such a political football now.
Well,
if you want background checks and you're a Democrat, then as a Republican, I don't.
Right.
Just for no great rationale.
Right.
Just because you are who you are and I am who I am. And that's all it is.
That is in the DNA of America. That is Tea Party mentality. Whatever is the boss, I don't want it. That's what it is. Whoever's in power, we don't like it. It's just in that American fight DNA. And I say that as an American, as somebody who was raised there.
So you weren't down at your mom and dad's. What do they, do you talk about it? What do they have to say?
We talk about it a little bit. I mean, it was kind of it's become so commonplace that it's just, we spent the morning, we had a brunch, my mom made eggs, we swam in the pool, my mom talked to me while I swam, got in the hot tub, got in back in the pool, and then
Tell us more.
And then we all gathered around and watched the shooting.
And they gathered, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, look, there's a shooting.
Now,
Let's go watch the shooting.
Would your parents have a gun in their home?
Yeah, it's interesting. My dad used to have a gun. When we lived in New Brunswick, he would he had a few hunting rifles, and
Right.
on my very first date, decided to sit behind my date, who was Vietnamese, by the way, who was a refugee. My dad fought in Korea, but my dad decided to sit behind us while we watched Caddyshack and cleaned his gun. So my dad was a gun owner for sure. That said, he's not a super gun guy. He was never super militant, but he was an army guy. You know, he spent a lot of years in the army, so he has that sort of background. Now, it's interesting because I've watched their narrative since they lived in Tennessee change about a lot of things, they lived in Tennessee and then they lived in Florida, and Tennessee was much more pro-gun than where they are in Florida, although Florida has its problems with guns, obviously.
Well, yeah, I'd say.
Yeah, just a little bit, a couple mass shootings. But the thing is Florida's a very segmented population, right? So that's the trick of Florida. People think, oh, it doesn't happen here. So they live in Indian River, that area, and it doesn't happen here. That's Orlando. That's Miami. You know, it's ridiculous because it's a game of inches at that point. But that's really, they don't live in a gated community, but that's how they feel. Now, I've heard them talk about maybe wanting to have a gun in the house for intruders, and that's when I kind of put my liberal daughter foot down and was like, nope, you're not doing that for a million reasons. And then
why? Because do you think that it's not necessary?
Yeah, I think.
Or the consequences of having to use it?
Both.
Yeah.
I think this I'm going to get 'em mentality is part of the problem.
Right.
And a lot of people actually have gone to jail with that mentality. So they have an intruder, they shoot him, and then they go to jail. So I tried to explain to them, actually, it's not that simple. And stand your ground is not what you think, you know, because people use that as an excuse to go on a little killing, vigilante spree. Let's kill the bad guys. So... And also, they have a grandson. I don't think having a gun in the house with a grandson, even though he's not there a lot, is a great idea. Also, they're getting old. I don't think it's a great idea for the two of them, and I don't think they would.
No, can you imagine that? He grabs the gun and he's shaking.
Yeah.
So shooting the ceiling, shoots your mum.
But
right? Shoots the dog.
Yeah.
And the
neighbor's dog.
The thief walks out.
Yeah.
The shakiest gun in FLA.
My mom would be like, my curtains, my curtains.
Well, can you imagine being in the position? I've even thought of that. Like, okay, I have a gun in the house. There's actually an intruder, so I actually have to go to get the gun.
Yeah.
Just think of that situation.
No, I know.
Is that an excuse to use it? Like, finally I get to use my gun? Or, oh, no, I have to use this gun.
Like, time out. I just got to reach under the bed here. Here it is. Okay, now you can rob me. Like, what are you thinking? No, and I think even at that point, they're like, my parents are also in their 70s, so they're both at this point where they're like, if you're going to take me, take me. You know, that's kind of their attitude. But just this idea that we spend the afternoon, eating chips and dip and watching the shooting it was troubling to me, but that's what it's become.
You know what? There's that. It's a funny, that feeling you get, and it's sort of terror, yet it's a certain type of enthusiasm when there's a big world event.
Yeah.
You run and you put on CNN.
Yep.
If you're a pea-brain, you put on Fox.
Sure.
But you know that feeling you get? Like, it's almost that feeling. Everybody gets, you take your seat and you watch and it's unfolding.
Everyone has one, too.
I know, and it's horrible news, but it's still, you almost have this feeling of excitement, like, oh, hey, I'm part of this.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh, did you hear this? But the thing is that shootings have become, we all have our different version of that event. Like, I remember the Bronco chase. Remember that, OJ? Yes. So I don't know if you guys would remember that, though. You're little.
Not live, no.
No. Because you were a little kid, or you weren't born. When were you born?
93.
Oh. So that would have been
before.
So you're a little baby.
Literally.
But you probably have your version of what's your version of
the parents all sitting down at the table watching this car drive down the highway with all the cruisers following behind it, and it was just like a same kind of thing, eating popcorn, watching this crazy news story.
But I mean, do you have was it the Parkland shooting? Like, that's what I'm saying, like this awful thing where you all gather around the TV and watch it, but now they're so commonplace that it's like, oh, now they're shooting.
But again, I'm almost ashamed by that feeling that you get when you watch it. Like, I don't know if it's positive excitement or whatever it is, but it's almost an enjoyment. Is
it like a form of voyeurism where you're like passing the scene of an accident or something like that, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be terribly mass shooting.
Well,
right?
I think the thing is we watch it so much. Like I remember after the Orlando Pulse, that one really affected me.
Oh yes.
And I went there a year later on the anniversary. Watching there was video footage of the kids on top of each other in the bathroom, and one of them was shot, and they're crying. And I watched that a few times, and that is total voyeurism, isn't it? Like, I'm kind of ashamed of it. But
and if it's so objectionable, why do we watch it? Like, I mean, you think the thing, I'm not watching that. That's horrible. I'm not watching that. But for some reason, we do, and we charge to it. It's weird.
Part of the problem they say with these shootings that people don't register that this is happening because they're like, oh, this has got to be. And back to Disney, I kept thinking, if someone has a gun, someone's going to think it's some Disney interactive thing before they think it's anything else. They're going to think it's somebody in character.
Something just happened in New York as well. A car backfired.
And it sounded like a shot.
Did you see that video?
Ran, yeah.
Oh, wow.
That was crazy.
It was crazy, but it was almost funny. I mean, it was because it was no problem. It was Times Square. A car backfired, and people were running for their lives.
Yeah,
and you know what? Why wouldn't they?
It was a motorcycle.
Right on the
motorcycle.
on the heels of all this.
Yeah.
Really, why wouldn't they?
And only when it's that commonplace do you think that's a gun, you know? Because otherwise you just think, oh, it's play. It's not, you know. So yeah, to answer your question, I think about it all the time. I think about it in Canada too, but not as much. But I definitely in Orlando, I think about it a lot. I mean, Orlando's had, they've had in the last few years, 50 kids got shot at Pulse. Like, Florida has a lot of it. And actually, on the news, Florida was like, something we know well here in Florida, a shooting has happened. Like, they kept connecting them, not in a happy way, but connecting themselves to, like, a site many Floridians know very well. A shooting has happened in El Paso, Texas. I was like, really? That's your intro? But I guess
lovely beaches, great sunshine, and shootings.
There's a segue.
Anyway,
just before the break, maybe we should do a little more business.
Yeah.
What's on your list, Amanda?
Well, I'd love to talk about the retirement Sherpa.
Tell us about the Sherpa.
I would. You know, he just turned 60, and as we all know, he went to Paris, he went to Rome, and it made him just think about all of our listeners and think about the A in Sherpa, which was appreciation, amazingness, which is a word we don't use enough, acceptance, and just looking at what you can and what you can't control in your life. You know, if you go see the Sherps, and I'm going to tell you, I have a meeting with him coming up.
Oh, wow.
I do. I'm going to be his latest customer. He's a portfolio manager, and Raymond James is a member of the Canadian Investors Protection Fund. And go see what he can do for you. Go have a meeting with him in Burlington, or he'll come to you if he needs to.
He's a wonderful man, that Sherps.
He is.
As a matter of fact, he's a member of the golf course we were at the other day, and he gets his way. He can get his way around that course pretty well. He knows what he's doing with the sticks as well.
Yeah.
We're still waiting for Darren Frost. He's supposed to be here shortly after 8 o'clock. He has a new show that he's quite excited about. Darren Frost, always a great guest, because what would you call him? A controversial or a shock comedian?
Irreverent is a word we like. I mean, he's a member of the Humble and Fred family. It has been for many, many years.
And after the break, we'll also talk just a little bit more about this American thing, and you know, these warnings just blow me away.
Yeah.
Amnesty, as you talk about. But I'm going to be traveling to Great Britain in the next few weeks, and you know, it's the usual thing. And given the current atmosphere, wearing the Canadian hat or the Canadian hoodie, just to let people know that I'm Canadian.
Right.
Like, that's some great thing, which it is. But is it a great defense against people thinking I'm American? And I know you have some thoughts on that.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that. Cool. You know, it's because I have a couple of Canadian hats. I have this hoodie that says Canada on it. Delise went out and bought a blue jean jacket with a Canadian badge on the side.
Like, went and bought it?
Oh, yes.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes, because we want the world to know.
All right.
What we are.
Okay.
You're listening to the Humble and Fred Show. on Funny 820 Hamilton and Twitch TV back after the break, and hopefully Darren Frost will be here.
Marco.
Let me tell you, it's no fun going to Disney Springs with Amanda because she constantly reminds me that it's a soft target. It's true. That's all I say. Like,
oh my God.
Every time we go, and that's every dinner for a week. I'm like, you know, all it would take is one. He's like, I know.
So we have 4 more things, so that's 2 per half hour.
I have a quick question. I have a few in here. Are they, or is this done? This guy done?
Oh, yeah.
That's all I got?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Paula's gone too, I believe. Right?
Is he? No, I thought we were honoring August. He's coming in. I got him coming in next week.
Like I remember that we didn't mention him, though. We didn't mention his reason.
I feel like I was sitting here when Howard today.
Yeah, I was talking about
August. I've got him coming in next week.
So.
If you're interested in a unique advertising opportunity,
Oh yeah, that's good. He's sort of done, but
done-ish.
he's coming in again.
I didn't know.
Did he say yes?
Yeah.
Well, no, that's good. It can't hurt.
That's kind of what I thought. By the way, I don't have anybody for Wednesday. I was supposed to have a nutritionist come in, but she can't come in until next week. So if there's anybody you want, I mean, I have Sherpa. But if you have anybody, let me know. Tomorrow, can we go through dates?
At humbleandfredradio.com.
Right.
Humble and Fred Radio.
Tomorrow.
And who's Thursday?
Spin Doctors?
That guy's coming?
Yeah.
I think Ian Service was coming in with the guy who's going to talk about a bit of a gigs guy, which is fun. And I have another.
That's on Thursday?
Coffee that'll help you.
Yeah, I told him. I'll confirm it today.
Okay.
And then my buddy Jeff Domet, or Chicken Shawarma, was going to come in and talk about the Marty Street 10th anniversary thing, but more
That's just how we do.
about a few other things.
Make the most
I'll
of
tell
every
Thursday?
stop.
This is, yeah.
The Daily Grand
Did you make any leads with Furnace Room Brewery? The Georgetown Brewery?
No, he didn't.
Pretty lucky, right?
You guys want to?
I haven't asked him, but I wouldn't think they
He's
have
more
the money.
focused on craft festivals
You
and
made
stuff.
another $1,000.
Breweries
On
are
the third day, you
hard.
feel the itch to be like the
I just know because they've taken off just because Georgetown just happened to be the right location for it. And
every day.
yeah, they're doing really well out there. Just I don't know if they're looking to really expand outside of town.
That's the thing with
They're killing it because of town.
Right.
They don't need to.
Bill Burritos tomorrow.
Mhm.
So, yeah, Wednesday's a good day if you've got sort of...
So what, when we come back, what are you going to read?
Me?
Can you do screen print?
Yeah, he took Chambers.
And I got Chambers,
He took
yeah.
Chambers.
Okay, then screen print Chambers.
Absolutely.
Then we'll have.
Can we talk about dates in terms of when we're in and when we're not?
Right.
When were you gone?
I'm gone 23rd to the 14th. 3 weeks.
23rd of August?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
3 weeks.
Something good at the Innsville.
When
The
are we
diner features
here?
fresh oysters on the half
I guess
shell, lime red,
you were talking about like
fresh
our,
Nigeria yellow
what is
perch, and
it, the
pickerel,
last week
black
you're
Georgia Dover.
overseas.
7 to the 14th that week.
Okay.
I only asked because I do have some guests booked, which is fine. I can read them, but
September 7th to 14th?
no, the 26th to the 30th I have guests. Are we off?
No, Howard's going to be working. Okay. Oh, there's Dan. There they are. Who's Howard Darren?
With his son.
Yeah.
And now.
Morning, Darren.
Hey, pal, how are ya?
Good morning.
I love it. Yeah.
Anywhere you like. And we got a minute and a half
Do I
here.
have time to pee quickly?
It should be okay.
New channel, new time, new desk.
No, same desk.
What? Oh, the Beaverton. Get into it. Tuesday at 10, only on CTV.
Oh, here we go. We're getting back here.
A division of Bell Media.
Amanda!
Favorite iHeart radio station. Funny 820. Suck it back in.
You're welcome.
This is Humble and Fred.
I'm mixing up the music. I apologize.
It's okay, Phil. Where are we at?
Oh, here we go. We're up? Yeah, here we are.
Oh, there we go. The Tragically Hip. Humble and Fred, Howard isn't here. He's out golfing. on the East Coast. He flew out this morning. He's out at that beautiful golf course in Cape Breton Island. What's that sound?
What is that?
All right, doesn't matter.
Is that me? What's just
Everything's coming off now at 8 o'clock.
Is everything under control?
What was that? Oh, that was the tennis. Okay, we're gonna shut that down.
Again, you can watch us on Twitch TV, Funny 820, Canada's comedy superstation, humbleandfredradio.com, the podcast later in the day. Apparently, we're on YouTube, Facebook Live. This is crazy. Just think, anywhere in the world, you could be enjoying this right now.
That's right.
Enjoying.
With your cup of joe. Little hello to Vince Salonia, who listens every day.
Mhm.
He's one of those more silent Hundy peers. But I ran into him a couple weeks ago at the Keg, and he said, I listen to you every morning. And I hadn't spoken to him in a few years. And I went, you do?
Live?
He does, he
Wow.
does. Yeah, in the car.
That's fantastic.
Funny dude, too. We'll get him in here.
Okay, just before we get to Darren, I mentioned this at the top. I'm going to Great Britain, all the Canadian logo stuff, thinking that, and so that's sort of an insult to Americans, eh? Like, I want everybody to know I'm Canadian, not American. I often think that whole line of thinking is a bit over the top. That do people over there really care? If I walk in with a Canadian cap on or American cap, if I'm Irish and I've lived in Ireland do I really care? Or do I want to, like, I'm interested in both, because a Canadian and American, they both might have something to offer if I got into a conversation with them.
I think a little bit it depends on who you're talking to and where you go. But overall, in my opinion, having traveled a fair bit, and certainly in my early 20s, having done some of Europe and Asia and so on, I've always thought that is one of the great Canadian myths. That's my experience anyway. So I can only speak from my experience. I'm sure there's going to be 10 Canadians that want to tell me otherwise. But I'd like to put a book, as an American that's lived in Canada for the majority of my life at this point, I'd love to put a book out of the great Canadian myths, things that Canadians tell themselves to feel excited. And that is one of them. Like, sew a Canadian flag on your backpack and they'll treat you great because you don't want anyone to think you're American. I'll tell you, when I was 21, I moved to France, and I lived in France for a while, and they didn't care at all. They were like, American, Canadian, same thing. To them, they didn't care. Now, that might be France. I feel like
I was
Sean
going
has
to say,
something
yeah,
to say.
no, I had friends when I lived in Europe. I had friends that went to Egypt, and because they had problems around the pyramid areas, people trying to take advantage of tourists, and it was actually the Canadian flag on their backpack that kind of got them, kind of saved their lives. They were about to get left and kidnapped and left, basically, in the desert.
Yeah.
What?
Save their lives.
Save their lives.
It was, yeah, like, oh, you're Canadian? Not American? All right. Well, we'll leave you here instead of way out there.
Okay, now that's because you're worth less, though. That's
okay. Yeah, no, I'll take that. But it was a lifesaver for them.
And
I know
the government
that.
travel advice, by the way, the government travel advice for China is, if you're ethnic Chinese like myself, put your Canadian passport in your shirt pocket, because if you don't and you get into trouble, they might think you're one of them.
Right.
And that's not so good for treatment.
Yeah, like hostage, there's not much leverage. When I say worth less, just so I'm clear, there's not much leverage. I mean, there's a bit with Canada, but not the same as dealing with Trump or the U.S.
No.
And is that, if I'm traveling around Ireland, Scotland, England, is that almost a sign of disrespect if I'm wearing a Canadian cap? Is that almost like flying a flag in a different country or
That's
something?
how I feel. I feel
You
like
know?
that. I feel like it's just so dorky to be like, I'm Canadian. Let me tell you about hockey and Tim
Yeah,
Hortons.
no,
Like,
you're
no,
right. You know
no.
what? I think I'm going.
Dorky.
I
Just
think
get a Blue
I'm.
Jays hat. There you
Yeah,
go.
maybe. I think I'm going to trash the whole idea.
I always roll my eyes at when you see them on the plane. These people decked out in their patches of Canadianness, their maple leafs,
And you know, it's fair for you to say, even though you were born in the United States, right?
Yeah.
You're as much Canadian as you are
oh my
American.
God, yeah. I moved when I was 13, and I'm old.
So you have a nice balanced perspective.
Perhaps.
No, you do.
But I know what I know, and I know that I'm embarrassed. Listen, you go to Cuba, go to a resort in Cuba, and you're not going to be so proud to be Canadian, because you're going to see the scourge of Canada sunburnt and obnoxious.
Mm-hmm.
So, I kind of feel like it's this whole idea. It was always in Europe. People always say go to Europe with this Canadian flag thing. I think it's a crock. I really do. I had one on my backpack. It never did a thing for me back in my early 20s, and I don't know.
So you didn't get free free food, free drinks.
No.
You didn't get free hotel rooms just because you're Canadian?
Not in England either. But
that
there's
sucks.
this naivete. There's almost a sweetness, but also an annoyingness about the naive sort of Canadians wanting to show off how Canadian they are. I don't know.
Okay, let's bring in this sweet Canadian right now.
Yes.
He's as sweet as they come.
Yes.
He's one of Canada's most outstanding stand-up comics. And
well, definitely standing. I don't know about outstanding, but
and he's been a traditionally wonderful guest on the Humble and Fred show, and we're glad to have him back. It's Darren Frost.
Good to be back.
Yeah.
So I was supposed to wait my turn over there, but this conversation, I actually will be the argument for not wearing it. I'm not a nationalist at all. You'll never see a Canada T-shirt in my bag or anything like that. Wear a hat that says Canada. I think it's kind of creepy in my opinion. That's my personal opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say that I know when I was traveling through Europe, and this was in the mid-'90s to late '90s, it did make a difference. And I'm sure it would now, because America is right now at the forefront of politics again, and there's a real division there in Europe, I think, of what people feel about America. And to disassociate yourself from that right from the beginning would probably be a good thing.
Yeah.
There's that.
No,
I remember myself talking, someone going, "Oh, are you American?" "No, Canadian." And there was a sense of, "Oh, okay." Now that doesn't mean that you're going to get treated better, but I think their backs kind of get down a little. They don't get their backs up like there might be a fight, But that's also the Brits. That's the British way, The Brits, the thing about Brits is they love wearing an American flag and will tell you that America sucks right to your face. They'll have all kinds of American stuff on. They'll have all the iconic things. They'll be eating KFC, right? But America sucks. That is the British way.
Do you ever perform in the States?
I performed, I just was in L.A. for the big Canada Day show down on July 1st, a big sold-out show at the Comedy Store. So I do once in a while perform in America, but not as much as I used to, just travel-wise. I don't travel as much with my kids, obviously. But don't get me wrong, performing in America is great. I don't think you should be embarrassed to be an American whatsoever traveling. No. But at the same time, I'm not a nationalist, but I would probably have a little thing on my backpack.
Oh.
So there you go.
So maybe I will wear my Canadian hoodie.
This is our Canadian content panel today.
I don't know if I'd go as far as wearing a Canadian hoodie. I would just maybe have it on my backpack.
Maybe not a hoodie.
But I'm not going to have a backpack.
Or, then,
I'm a 63-year-old man. I don't backpack across countries anymore.
Well, all right.
What do you have? A luggage tag?
Well, you don't stay in hostels? Come on. That's where you meet people, isn't it?
That's where you do all the cool drugs.
So you did, Canada Day in Los Angeles?
Yes, on the big Canada Day show.
What does that mean?
So every year for the last 8 years, maybe even 10, I think, a comic named Angelo Sarukis, who's based out of Los Angeles, who's Canadian, has done a big Canada Day show at the Comedy Store. It's sold out, the main room, which about 400 people.
Right.
And he asks pretty much any of the transplants that are in LA to do the show, and then people actually fly down to do the show. So I was there this year. Comics like Ian Bagg, Jeremy Hotz. In the past years, Russell Peters has done it. Tom Green did it this year. He jumped on. So it was like 17 Canadian comics performing to a crowd that's, I would say half was Canadian, half was American. But they've built up a rapport with the crowd that expects a certain thing.
Would it be Canadian content?
No,
necessarily?
Not necessarily.
No?
There is a little bit of, like, one comic named James Cunningham did a big bit about, in America right now in Los Angeles, they have these scooters that you can just rent. They're on the side of the road, right?
I saw that in North Carolina this week.
It's the weirdest thing. It's just
so weird.
It's a motorized scooter. It's just sitting on the side of the road.
So one of those, like, bike share things, but scooters?
But they're scooters, and you just use your phone app,
right,
and then it turns on, and you can use it, but then you can just drop it off anywhere you want.
They're littered all over the streets. It's not like, how
are they motorized scooters?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
You know how we have the bike and you go and you can park it in the little
in a spot that
Yeah.
keeps it upright. Not in America, not in Los Angeles. It's just on the side. We were in the middle of the road. You can just leave it in the middle of the road. People just leave them in the middle of the road. like laying down. I almost drove over one. I'm like, what is going on here?
So what do you do? So how do you pick it up?
But pick it up. Use your phone app.
Okay.
It
so
says
it knows you have it now.
Yes. And for the distance you use it, that's what you pay.
So if you just drop it and it gets damaged, like who's responsible?
No, who knows? Nobody.
Yeah.
Once you're done with it, you're done with it. That's it. App is off.
Okay, part of the reason you wanted to come here today was to talk about a new show that you're working on. Maybe we should talk about that before we get... I don't even know if the Jeffrey Epstein stuff is political. I mean, there's been a lot of politics. Sort of politics today, but hey, it's been in the news and we're talking about it. But your new show, what do we need to know about Darren Frost's new show?
Well, what's going on in the next few months? In October, the first 2 weeks, I'm bringing in, and with a partner of mine, we're bringing in Greg Morton, who is, if you're not aware, he's a Canadian, originally from Woodstock, Ontario, and he's blowing up on America's Got Talent. The last 2 appearances, he's got standing ovations from the crowd and the judges. His first appearance, he almost got the golden buzzer. That's how strong of a set he got. And if you don't know what that means you get put right through to the final live shows, which is a big deal. He did 2 minutes of all the Star Wars voices together in one clip. And so it's, had millions of shares already. He's been a comic for over 30 years. He's called Mr. Standing Ovation in my business because he literally is the comic who gets the most standing ovations of a stand-up comic out there. And so we're bringing him to Ontario to do a bit of a theater tour. And we're going to be playing places like, Kitchener, Cornwall, London, Barrie, Oshawa. So we're doing 5 or 6 dates, London, Ontario as well, and we're bringing him in because it's about time that this guy gets to play theaters because he's a theater level comic.
Excellent. Now, your career recently, any controversy?
No controversy. I've had walkouts in the last little while talking about political correctness in my act and things like that, but nothing major. No one's tried to kill me. No one's thrown anything at me. So it's a good year, My kids can expect Daddy to come home tonight.
So I'm trying to think. You're talking about political correctness and people walk out. What possibly could you be saying about political correctness that would force people to walk out?
Well, my point about you want to be politically correct, that's fine. And you don't want to like something, that's fine. What I don't like is when someone doesn't like something and then tries to stop it from happening when other people are enjoying it.
Right.
That's the difference. Like if I spend my money on 101 Dalmatians, right, and I go see the movie and I expected it to be dog porn and it's not, that's my fault. Because I didn't do the research.
No, you're right. You're right.
I can't go up to the manager and go, I was expecting more ATM here. You know what I mean? No, you can't be like that. You got to be like, my mistake. It's a kid's movie. Okay, fine, right? But what happens in the stand-up comedy world is no one does the research. They just go, I'm going to go see stand-up comedy tonight. They go see the troll of comedy, Darren Frost. They get upset. Then they leave, and they don't like the fact everyone else is laughing. They try to stop the show. They either yell or try to get the manager involved and demand it to stop and that kind of thing. So I talk about that on stage, and that's the ability for people to go, okay, this might not be for me, and then they leave, which is better than them trying to stop the show.
It goes back to that whole thing about radio, television. That's what the on-off button is for. That's what the tuner's for.
Right.
If you don't like it, change stations.
Right.
Don't tell the people that are enjoying this that they can't listen to it because you don't think it's appropriate. I get it.
Also, you have a brand.
Absolutely.
You have a brand.
Absolutely.
And so it sounds, from what you're saying here anyway, it sounds like people are having an issue with your brand.
Yeah, so we were doing a show called Rank and Vile, which I do with Kenny Robinson.
Sure, yeah.
This just this weekend, and that's what it's called. The show is called Rank and Vile, Canada's dirtiest comedy show. And some people still had a little bit of a problem with it. Well, I'm like, I can't brand it any better than that to figure out what you're going to see. And people still think it's just Seinfeld with F-bombs, and they come out, and that's it. That's what they think it is.
And that is amazing. Even if they don't fully understand and they're sitting there and they don't like what they hear, that reaction, it just blows me away. I mean, even enough to get up and walk out. Seriously.
Like about 2 months ago.
What does that take for you to get up and walk out? You might not agree, you might not find it that funny, but to walk out?
Yeah. But someone, like a lady, not to diss Kenny. Kenny's he's a legend comic, but, sometimes people just don't like it. So a month ago we were together in Burlington, Ontario, where life goes to die. And what happened was these three women got up near 10 minutes left of Kenny's act, walked out. They saw me outside in the hallway, and they said, "This guy's no good." And I'm like, I'm not going to sit here and listen to you tell me that. I'm like, he's been killing for 40 minutes. The crowd likes it. It's not like he's bombing. And I'm like, well, he's having a tough night. It's going well. And they kind of got their back up. And I said, listen, you made a mistake. You want to party somewhere else. Go party somewhere else. We're not stopping you. And actually, for the first time in my almost 30-year career, the woman stopped herself and went, you know what? You're right. We did make a mistake. He's not. It's just not my thing. I said, yeah, it's not your thing. I don't want you to have a bad night. We tried to brand it a certain way. You made a mistake. Just go on your night. And she actually said, you're right. And it kind of just de-escalated. But that's the first time in a long time something's de-escalated. It always escalates.
I guess it's better, though, to walk out in the
Absolutely.
world than to sit there and boo or heckle or be a dick about it, because I've been to, my parents live in Florida, talked a lot about them today, and they take me to their comedy nights, and so I went to one not too long ago.
Your parents' comedy nights?
Yeah, and so it's comedy for Floridian comedy is its own issue, too.
But if your parents enjoy it, what is it like?
Well, this one comic was doing a lot of jokes about he was white, jokes about Muslims at the expense of Muslims.
All right.
And so I'm, if it all depends on who the butt of the joke is for me, so it went on and on and on. Now, I didn't walk out because I was there with my parents, and they would have, and I didn't boo because that's not who I am.
How were your parents reacting?
They were like, yeah, he wasn't as good as the last guy. Is about what they had to say.
I've heard way better Muslim jokes than that.
I actually, to be honest, and this just shows you with the Toronto bubble that I live in, I just was sitting there going, I can't believe that this is still happening. That this guy, but clearly it is, and clearly there's an appetite for it, because here I am sitting in this theater, actually, at the Riverside Theater in Melbourne, Florida.
The only thing about a comedy show is usually there's a few guys. So if I'm not liking a comic, like I've never walked out of a theater because a movie sucked, and I've seen some bad movies.
Right.
I'm just thinking, I actually leave rather than wait for the next comic, or at least maybe to get my money's worth.
He was the headliner. It depends. Yeah. If he's middling,
if he's the last guy and you don't like it, why not leave?
Yeah.
I actually don't have a problem with that. I always say, if you don't like it, leave now.
Yeah.
Like, you don't hire Metallica to sing Jan Arden songs. I'm doing Metallica songs. If you want Jan Arden, you made a mistake here. That's I tried it. Believe it or not, you try to warn people as much, but people just, they're busyness of their lives. I don't want to be, Debbie Downer and say people are jerks, but people are busy. They don't do the research, and it comes back to bite them.
All right. No. And I would say if you have the chance to see Darren Frost, you should go see Darren Frost. And
Google first.
And based on what you've just heard, you know what you're going to get. But I'll tell you, you get your money's worth, and you're a very clever man.
I need to say that Burlington, it makes me laugh that you said that. Burlington this week ranked #1 as Canada's best community. The #1 place to live in Canada is Burlington.
#1.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Sure. Any small town I play, it's where life goes to die. It's just a running joke. Don't feel bad, Burlington.
No, just for
I live in Barrie. I say worse.
Oh, we should talk about that later too.
And I also, I saw you on Handmaid's Tale.
Oh, did you?
Yes. Yeah, good job.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. It got cut. Most of it got cut.
Yeah, it always does.
But that's I still made it in.
What, your part was cut?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
big time, yeah. But,
most roles get cut down.
Probably should have seen that coming. So it's not really about my character arc as Trisha, the abortion activist.
Yes.
I don't know. Should I... Handmaid's Tale, should I... You good?
It's a hard watch.
I didn't watch it until only about 2 weeks ago, just because I wanted there to be a couple seasons before I kind of take it on. And everyone had talked so high about it.
This is it. I hear
let it simmer down a bit before I started watching it, because I don't want that expectation to be, it's the greatest thing ever, and it isn't.
Yeah.
But it's very, very good. It's very utopian. It's very much taking on now in season 2 what's going on in America and trying to parallel some of those things. So it's a very good show.
I'll tell you, very good. I just finished watching it last night. Was The Loudest Voice. Just sort of a mini-series, 7 parts. I watched part 7 last night. It's about Fox News, Roger Ailes.
Oh, yes.
Building Fox News and then it all falling apart. I highly, highly recommend it. Even if you don't know much about Fox News, it's sort of self-explanatory.
Right.
It really, and then you really appreciate what a skunk he was.
Yep.
And how evil that whole network is
Was
because
that on
of him.
Netflix, or where'd you watch it?
It's a Showtime.
Showtime?
Through Crave, though.
Yeah,
Through Crave, yeah.
Anyway, before we move on, Amanda, tell us about Strain Prints.
Oh, I can't wait. Well, Strain Print is the #1 place to go to when you want to learn a little bit more about your experience with everything cannabis. You want to know it's sort of like the Fitbit of weed cannabis, and it helps you to use cannabis responsibly. You can understand how cannabis interacts with your body, learn what strains are best for you. They also have a medical cannabis tracking app, which I think is really great, and a medical cannabis journaling app. All of that and more at strainprint.ca. And there's a really great piece right now on treating insomnia. It's 45% effective. This is the latest stat. How effective is medical cannabis at treating insomnia? The answer, improved sleep by 45%. So go to strainprint.ca, learn more about that.
Phil?
Yes, the Chambers Plan is Canada's #1 plan for employee benefits for anyone between 1 to 100 employees. If you're a small firm like that, it's just for you. Any of the 30,000 Canadian businesses out there who have signed up for Chambers Plan, they've got wonderful health and dental benefits. We've got travel insurance at Humble and Fred now because of the Chambers Plan, as well as the stability and simplicity of having stable rates. So every year, there's no jumps in our rates just because we decided to make some claims. Of course, 30,000 Canadian businesses taking advantage of this. Go ahead, chamberplan.ca for everything that's good about insurance, the Chambers Plan.
Thank you, Phil. I just noticed time is getting away from us here. It's 8:20. Before we get into the big conspiracy, because that's the part I love, the Jeffrey Epstein story. The conspiracies are fascinating.
I don't even understand it.
And I so want to buy into them.
Because there's so many of them.
Oh, there's so many of them, and a lot of them could be valid. But before we we'll wait till after the break to get into that. One last thing I want to mention, sort of travel, sort of an anniversary, which just took place, I think, over the weekend, 50th anniversary of the album Abbey Road.
No way.
Yes.
Really?
A great album. I think we can all relate to it. Everybody loves the Beatles, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
Do you love the Beatles?
Oh, of course. They're amazing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, I'm going to Ireland, then Scotland, then England in the next few weeks. And part of what I do in London, well, first in Liverpool, I'm going to take the Magical Mystery Tour, and I'm going to go to all the
Penny
houses.
Lane and
going to go to all that
Fields.
stuff.
Yep.
Oh, cool.
And then in London, I would like to go by, the Apple Studios, which is, near the Abbey Road, where the famous picture was taken. On Abbey Road.
You and your Canadian flag going to all of them, yeah.
But I've been thinking, what I'm not going to do is have a picture taken of me crossing the road.
Oh, really?
No.
No,
I think that's cheesy. Would you do that?
I mean, I wouldn't do it, but what is the difference between that and getting your picture on Penny Lane?
No, I get it, but so often, everybody that goes, especially with Facebook now, social media, people travel, they post all these kinds of pictures you don't care about. So many people do that. They go to Abbey Road and they get 3 other members of their family and they walk across. Somebody takes their shoes off. And I really can't bring myself to do that.
I do. So do something different.
Like what?
I always jump.
Do it naked.
Do it naked.
Do it naked.
Do it naked jump.
It's like, when I was in Italy, the Leaning Tower of Pisa, you go there and everybody pretends they're holding it up or no, stupid.
But what are we going to show at your funeral? We need those. We need that for the slideshow.
And as much as I love the Beatles and as much as I love this album.
It's about your funeral. What are we going to show then?
Me and Darren when we do our duet.
We're going to cry. We have no photo of him on Abbey Road.
He
says he was there. If there's no photo, it never happened.
There will be no Fred funeral.
We'll do the whole Abbey Road album, but we'll put in your name.
No, I just can't imagine choreographing that. I'll be with 3 other people. So what do? You get some Brit?
Well, that's the thing. What if you're by yourself? You got to find 3 other people to do it with you. That's a job creation. Rent-free Brits. If I was British, I'd wait right there. $10 and we'll do the Abbey Road.
You're right.
Job creation.
You're right.
I've seen 50 pictures on Facebook this summer of people crossing Abbey Road.
It's just them crossing.
Now, do you know about the whole Drake connection here with this 50th anniversary?
No.
So Drake gets a tattoo done because he just recently broke a record that the Beatles had. They had this record for 60 years. Yes. So Drake got a tattoo of the Abbey Road on his arm.
Okay.
Of the 4 Beatles.
Okay.
him in front of the Beatles kind of waving at them like, I'm ahead of you.
No.
That's the tattoo. I swear to God, you can look it up. It's been all over the news.
No.
That's the tattoo that Drake got. It's unbelievably cocky.
Oh, wow.
He's a tattoo.
And that's the truth and
Yeah.
verified?
Yes. Yes.
Why would he do that? That's ridiculous.
Here it is. Are you ready for it?
You can look at it. I'm not even
put it
making
up,
this up.
Put it up on the Facebook.
This is the best
Put it
one.
up on your Facebooks and stuff.
Look at that. Well,
Let's
let me
see.
find a better photo than that, but that's it.
Yeah. The 4 Beatles, Abbey Road, and then he's in front kind of like,
Come
hey,
on.
I'm number 1.
You know.
Do you imagine how big...
He's bigger than the Beatles. Look, he sold a lot of records. I'm not taking anything away from Drake, but the way that they measure these things now versus back then,
Exactly.
it's not a real fair comparison.
Can you imagine the Beatles in their prime with streaming and Spotify and
yeah,
on
exactly.
and on
Yeah,
and on
exactly.
and on?
Right? You know, like, so that's the difference. But, you know, it's cool that he broke the record. You can be proud of that. But to get a tattoo...
That's why you don't want to wear a Canadian
I just
flag.
lost a lot of respect for him.
Exactly.
You don't want to talk about Drake.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
Great comparison. You're listening to the Humble and Fred Show on Funny 820, watching on Twitch TV, and you can hear the show later on the podcast, humbleandfredradio.com. Darren Frost, our guest, will be back after the break to talk about the conspiracies.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, right. Never thought of that.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. Yeah.
That's a funny recommendation for you.
What?
Do a modern version of Abbey Road. For example, looking at your phone on the quarter, waiting for your Uber ride.
Oh, yeah, right. What a dick thing for him to do, eh?
I didn't know he did that. But I knew he beat the record. We talked about that.
That's cool. Beat the record. It's great.
Yeah.
You know, that's cool. Like I said, the way they measure it's a little different, but you can still own that. But to get a tattoo.
The last time I looked that song, what is it, Godspeak?
Yeah, God's Plan.
It had 1.6 billion streams on
Yeah,
Spotify.
but Gangnam Style. Come on.
Whatever, but I'm just
saying, like
it's a
a
15
number
minutes
of
of fame
measurements.
thing.
Yeah.
Versus the Beatles would have been around.
When
for
you listen to the
months.
Beatles, you had to catch them at the right time on the radio, or actually go and purchase a fucking album.
But you know how many times the song Yesterday's been played
Yeah, right.
and heard? More than 1.6 billion times.
That's right. No, you're right.
Right? Like
Yeah.
the way you want to measure it is like,
Yes.
okay, like, yeah, maybe on my phone I've listened to Drake 1.6 billion times, but when you measure over time, all the different formats, those, you know, you
Right.
LP, 8-track, cassette,
Yeah.
CD, Blu-ray, like, it's just...
No, remastered versions.
Yeah.
Like every other version that came out too. Just keeping up with the times. That's it.
Yeah.
And it still holds up. Like my generation still knows all the words to these songs.
Hey, you know, Paul McCartney's one of the few artists that's still selling out stadiums.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many years ago I went to see him at ACC. It was fabulous.
Yeah.
At the time, I think he was 72, and he played for 3 hours, never took a break. And then the next year, I went and saw Elton John, who was overweight. Between every song, Elton John did this little bow to the crowd or pretended he was doing just to catch his fucking breath.
Yeah.
Where McCartney was just unbelievable.
Non-stop, yeah.
Well, what about Jagger, right? Like at 77.
Never seen news about him this week.
So you came down from Barrie?
Yeah.
How was that?
The 400 closed north,
Mhm.
completely closed. The 401 is completely closed.
No, I know.
So it was a madhouse.
Sure. So it took you longer,
Yeah, it
obviously?
took an hour and 40.
It's usually what?
It should only took an hour and 15. At 6 a.m. it should only take an hour and 15.
Ask about their peace of mind plan and book your appointment today at Ringside
Yeah, I made an early call at the top of the 410
Ringside MD, now open
to weave my way here this morning because that problem at the bottom of the, or at the eastbound 401.
Yeah.
That's right where I
Right.
fucking idiot.
And where's Howard this week? On vacation?
He's out golfing on the East Coast.
Oh, okay.
You got the chance to golf. Is it just
Yeah,
you
we
got
took
the
most
chance?
of July off, so we couldn't take another week off. and then I'm
Was
away.
that just a one day for you on the tail, or did they take a couple days to do that?
2, because originally I had lines. It was a whole scene in the fire scene. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
Okay, what did you read, Phil? Just that?
So we did Chambers Plan, Strain Print, Sherpa, Clear Air, and Gig Sky.
But then
Oh, so we just need one now. Freedom? That's the only one left?
Freedom and I think Clear Air, right?
I did Clear
Air.
Air. So just Freedom?
Chambers Plan.
We were missing
we had Chambers Plan.
Ringside. We're missing Ringside.
Oh, did we do Chambers Plan?
We did Chambers already.
Okay, Ringside.
And Freedom.
Okay.
Here we go.
But everybody else from Mother's like, huge big cups, but.
Here, I'll do Chambers Plan and you do Ringside.
Okay. Absolutely.
Are you all right with Ringside?
Conversation was a bit lost. Now it's just me like, hey, what's going on? What are you gonna do?
Yeah, that happened to me in Hairspray. I was supposed to be a running joke the whole way through, and then day one, they're like, yeah, we're trying to joke.
I don't love that. I don't know, I'm not even do. You know, he's kind of like, it's not my show, but actually, what's the
Yeah.
Peace of mind.
How's it been going for you? I've been finding in the summer, well, I was away last week, but I've been finding overall auditions a little bit slower.
Your son doesn't have to stay downstairs.
Oh, he's fine. He's got his tablet. And
Oh, okay.
he doesn't want to hear the things I say.
Well, I was going to actually ask you about that.
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
I love hearing about your kids on Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and we're back.
Is Humble and Fred only on Funny
820? It's Canada's comedy superstation, Funny 820. The Humble and Fred Show without Howard. He is not here this week. He is golfing out in the East Coast, Cape Breton Island. Big course out there. He's always wanted to golf, or he's always wanted to play, and that's what he's doing. So it's Fred and Phil and Amanda and Sean and Darren Frost, our guest this morning. Before we move on with Darren Frost, though, Phil,
Absolutely.
Tell us about Ringside.
Ringside MD is healthcare in your corner, and it's about Dr. Alkesh Patel, who happens to be the founder of Ringside MD's new clinic in Burlington. And of course, he's a wonderful guy. You should visit him, and if you need a new doctor, he might be your guy. And the last time I was here was talking about the mental health stress of becoming a new father, because there are lots of miracles that come with being a new father, and then there's lots of stresses as well. And Ringside MD is definitely an ally for you if you're a new father, and old fathers as well. And the Ringside MD difference is the peace of mind plan. You can get into contact with Ringside MD anywhere in the world if you feel like needing a doctor virtually. That plan is on their website, Ringside MD or ringsideclinic.ca.
And let me tell you about this plan. It's the Chamber Plan, Canada's #1 plan for employee benefits. 30,000 Canadian business owners now part of it. They've been around for over 40 years. The Chamber's plan has it all for you. Health benefits, dental benefits, travel benefits. They even have an HR component now. It's fantastic. It's simple, it's stable, it's smart. Go to chamberplan.ca and get a free quote for your small business. It's a great way to look after your employees. Oh, yes, it is. Yeah, it's great to have Darren Frost in the studio again. Such a sweet boy. And his son is here, too. Maybe we'll...
yeah, my middle son.
Maybe quickly touch on that. He's downstairs.
Yes.
He's not upstairs. And
No.
I said, your boy can come upstairs. And you said, well, I don't want him to hear... What did you say?
I said I don't want to. He doesn't actually want to hear what I say.
Oh, he doesn't.
He doesn't actually. He's at the age now where he's like always like, why do you have to say the words you say, and why do you have to talk that way? And I'm like, look, every time Daddy swears, we eat. Okay, that's how it works. Daddy swears enough, we go to Disneyland. Okay, so.
Do you swear in the home?
No.
Oh,
no,
you don't?
I'm the exact opposite to what my onstage persona is.
Okay.
Like my kids can't play violent video games until a certain age. They can't watch R-rated movies. Like only now my 16-year-old is allowed to watch pretty much anything he wants within reason. I'm very, very adamant about that. Like even the Avengers, my 9-year-old wants to see it. I'm like, I'll watch it first, then I'll decide whether you watch it or not.
Your 16-year-old son?
Yes.
Did you have the talk with him?
We've had the talk, yes. Yeah.
How much detail did you have to get into, given, there's a lot of information available free that was, hey, listen, when I was 16...
You found a magazine in the woods? I know where this is going.
Yeah. Probably.
Sure.
And I mean, that's not far off the truth, but now
these
kids are 2 clicks away from the most disgusting thing you'd ever
it's terrible.
want. So when you have the talk now, what's that like? Much detail or just...
I think it's the same amount of detail it always has been. You're either going to be open and honest about it or you're not, right? And if you're not, that's going to force them to go on the internet and check out things for themselves, right? And maybe get the wrong information.
When my son, it was just, it would have been late 90s when my wife said to me a few times, have you had the talk with Danny yet? And I said, no. And she said, we should have the talk with Danny.
Isn't it interesting, based on the sex of the child, it's up to what parent to have the talk.
I didn't realize, I don't have kids, I didn't realize it worked that way. I just assumed.
Yeah, no, and it was a time where the internet was still somewhat in its infancy,
right,
so to speak. But I knew there was stuff out there, so I just went in his room one night and I said, hey, Mom wants me to have the talk with you. Do I really need it? And he goes, no, Dad, you don't. I said, okay, we've had the talk.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, that was our talk.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, and it worked.
Oh, that's amazing.
But I think things are really changing now. I don't really think it's the father's responsibility to talk to the son. I think it's whatever parent now is probably the most comfortable, and especially if the child approaches. So my son approached my wife about certain things first. So that is the indicator to me that he loves her more, and that he feels more comfortable.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be awkward. I still had the talk with him, but he's asking her more questions.
I asked my dad about ovulation because I ovulated when I was a kid, and I didn't know what that was. I had known about a period, so I knew that, and I think at that point, I must have. I was having my period, so that was covered ground. But then, I don't know if I'm sitting at a table of boys, in case we don't know, when you ovulate, often, you emit like a jelly. And I didn't know what that was. So I showed my mom was working all the time, so I thought, I think my dad can handle this. I don't know. I wasn't really. So I was like 11. And so I was like, Dad, what is this? I have this on my underwear. What is this? Thinking it was not thinking it was a female thing, just thinking it was a human thing. And my dad was like, do you have diarrhea? Is that diarrhea? He had no idea what it was.
Well, I wouldn't know either.
Now I know.
Yeah,
but it was that's a pretty hard one.
Sure.
Because we talk a lot about periods and other stuff, but that's not one.
Have you ever brought this up to your dad? You don't think he's scarred by that?
You know what I have?
My 11-year-old brings a jellyfish to the table, and I've got to decoy it with diarrhea. I'm sure that scarred him. I'm sure that scarred him hard.
Yeah.
He can never go to the aquarium. I'll tell you that much. He's going to go to Ripley's and have a heart attack.
Yeah, I mean, I realize now, I don't know who at the table would even go, oh, honey, that's when you ovulate, and that happens a week after your period. And I didn't know. So, yeah, I know, but my poor dad. And then only years later, it was actually grade 10 in biology. Because then I thought, 15. I just thought, okay, I'm a weirdo, then this thing happens.
Right.
And then only in biology class in grade 10, when I was 15, did we actually go through it all. And I went, that's what that is.
That's what that jelly was.
That's the jellyfish in my underwear. Yum.
When I first found out that my daughter had started her periods,
her woman time,
broke my heart.
Her moon time.
Like I literally,
did it really?
I cried.
Because you were like, that's it, no turning back.
Well, it's my little girl, and now she, for the next how many years she's got to go through that.
Oh
and,
man.
Because guys have it so easy compared to women. From that
From
perspective,
that
I mean, we really do. We don't have to deal with that. We don't have to carry another human being around in us, and
it's a lot.
Yeah,
a period's a lot to deal with.
Also, boys are pretty dumb at that age.
Yeah,
they don't. Thank God they don't have to worry about that. Can you imagine if boys how dumb they are at age 12? All of a sudden, they start bleeding from somewhere. I don't want to.
It's pretty messy.
Go talk to your mother about that. You're more comfortable with her.
They're the special jelly after.
Yeah, that's right.
Ew.
So over the weekend, Jeffrey Epstein.
Tomato.
Welcome back, Cotter.
Pedophilia.
The big financier, billionaire apparently, although there's some question about that. He's found dead in his jail cell in New York City. A jail cell that apparently had video cameras from every angle. That, in fact, every inch of that jail is under video surveillance.
Yes.
And he was on a suicide watch
No.
up until Friday.
Yes, up until Friday. See, that's the big misconception. People really think that he killed himself on a suicide watch, but he did not. It was up until Friday. Then the next day, he committed suicide.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
So
24-hour rule.
So how do we set this up? He's a pedophile. I think the main part of the story is his associates, his association with Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, Prince Andrew, that governor in New Mexico, Richardson, whatever his name was.
Oh, yeah.
OJ's lawyer.
Yeah.
Oh,
Which
God.
one? Shapiro?
No.
No.
Johnny Cochran's dead.
I'm
No.
looking. I'm
The other-
looking.
the
Hang
third
on.
one.
I don't know.
Leibowitz or...
Dershowitz.
Dershowitz.
That's
sorry.
right.
Oh,
I read
really?
about that.
Alan Dershowitz is
Yeah.
part of
Yes.
this?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
Yeah.
More than once.
What?
Yes.
Oh my
So
God.
it's just...
What?
So here we have it. It's
And they're the 5 that we know by name because they're not celebrities but well-known people. Think about the billionaires who are probably worth way more than those people that are involved that are like not known to us.
Exactly.
Right?
Who
That's
have
what
influence.
not a lot of people are talking about. It's the guy who owns Coke or the guy who owns... I'm not saying that's the guy, but I'm just saying a guy of that size who's a multi-billionaire that took that Lolita Express. They're the ones that I think... That's my conspiracy theory. Are behind
No,
it.
no. And I
behind
get
the
it.
death, you mean?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, because here's the deal. It's like Building 7 with 9/11.
Right.
It's like, why did the Secret Service guy jump off JFK's car?
Right.
Was it to give a clear shot to Oswald? Why this guy, suicide, such a huge trial coming up,
Right.
where obviously he's the main witness because it's all about him and co-conspirators.
Mhm.
Why would you be taken off suicide watch on Friday and then you end up dead on Sunday or Saturday or whatever it was?
Yeah.
And now we're probably going to find out in the next few days.
And the camera goes dead.
That's the part that's...
Has that been confirmed yet? The camera's gone dead?
Not 100%.
We're
that's
still
out
waiting.
there. We're still waiting for that.
So what are we all stupid? Like, I mean, seriously. So he ends up dead. We'll probably find out that, oh, there's no camera footage. Something crazy went wrong.
Right.
The explanation on why there wasn't more surveillance of him or more of a suicide watch, because he was primed for a suicide watch.
But was there somebody's job to just watch that footage? Or was it like... That's my question.
I would imagine. Why do you have it?
I mean, he was in a pretty high level security place because El Chapo was in the same area. That's what I read. So these aren't like, just breaking and enter guys and then, Epstein. We're talking very famous, very high level security inmates.
But it's not like 3 a.m. and there's one dude and he's asleep in his chair.
Okay,
and then
maybe, but
Maybe.
here's the point. Even if that happened,
That's going to be in season 4.
there
of
should
Handmaid's Tale.
still, even if that happened, Amanda,
Yeah.
there should still be video that we can
course.
see
But
what happened.
wouldn't you cover the camera? Like, couldn't you take your underwear or something and cover the camera?
I doubt it. I don't know. Would he even know where the camera is?
Probably.
Now, see, you're
Now,
asking
think of
questions
it.
I can't answer.
If he was a 12-year-old girl, you could just take the jelly.
Yeah.
Just put the jelly in the camera.
I'm sure he did.
Hey, that's a very. That's a very.
Okay, I wanted to, for the record, I did not say that. Amanda said that. I
sure
don't
he
want to
did.
get in trouble for that one.
But it's just so ripe for conspiracy.
Yeah.
It just is when you think of the high level
And
people.
Trump is fanning it. I mean, Trump has now come out and
Yeah, that's the thing.
added to the whole Clinton conspiracy. He's actually calling it out and saying it might be Clinton.
Can you imagine the president,
the president.
the president of the United States, and what that is? That's some comic who loves Trump, right?
Yes.
So he had tweeted,
Yes, a conservative
whatever that guy's
comic.
name, yeah,
Yes.
whatever that guy's name is. So
Terrence Williams?
Yeah.
Terrence Williams, I think it is. Yeah.
So he tweets the Clinton conspiracy because all those stories about people close to the Clintons all of a sudden end up dead.
Yeah.
There's a long list. It's alarming if you've ever seen it. So he's basically saying add Epstein to that list, and then the president of the United States retweets it.
And it's not even that, but it's like, how dumb are you that you're going to retweet something that everybody is already thinking of? Like, everybody already knows there's a connection to Clinton. It might be Clinton. And to fan that flame doesn't make any sense. Like, it's like saying, hey, the sky
Right.
is blue. I'm going to tell you the sky is blue. It doesn't make any sense. If you're going to tweet something that no one is thinking about or a new perspective. But just to say, oh, Clinton might have done it, it's like, what are you trying to do?
Yeah.
You're trying to win some people over who hate, Hillary and go for 2020. I get that, but it's not the smartest move. And like you said, the president, when in the history, when we said this multiple times about Trump, when in the history has the president done fill in the blank? That's Trump. I'm not, I'm not anti-Trump. I don't like Trump. I would never vote for him. And I'm not one of these like huge, oh, Trump should die and this. But at the same time, how many times can we say that sentence about our current president or their current president? It's never happened before because a president normally waits for someone else to do some research and then to formally say something might be possible or not possible. You don't wait. It already happened, and he's not even dead 48 hours.
You know what? In our lifetimes, every president will be better.
Yes.
I don't think you can be worse. I can't conceive. I mean, I say that it's like I'm tempting fate, but
I think people said the same thing about Bush. Not to
that's true.
be horrible.
Now people
love Bush.
Like,
You know what? You know what concerns me about it though? The silent cheerleaders, the people that if you sat with them would never admit they like Trump. They might go as far as to say they disagree with him on a certain level.
Right.
But election night, deep down, they like it all.
Well,
they like the fact that
yeah.
he's anti-immigration. They like the fact he's pro-gun. They like the fact that he says ridiculous things off the cuff.
And
they would never tell you they do.
Yeah.
But the only way they'll speak is that election night.
Through their vote.
Yeah.
And it's just as awful as people who don't bother.
Now, I don't know how it is because in Canada, I think people hold their cards a little more close to their chest about Trump.
Right.
But I was just talking to someone that was living, I believe it was in Illinois for years and just came back. And he said down there, they're pretty obvious when they support Trump. They're pretty, that's why, I don't know if Amanda's been down to Florida. People they will tell you.
Oh, no, I get that. That's the base. I'm worried about the people that don't, but will.
But I think they so enjoy part of it. When you like Trump, part of the liking of Trump is the pomp and circumstance of Trump.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying it's not impossible, but I do agree with what Darren's saying. Part of liking Trump is wearing that MAGA hat, is putting that sign on your lawn.
And pissing people off.
Yeah.
No. It's like it's like their evil wrestler. They love that.
Yeah,
they love the idea of stirring the pot.
I get all that. I think what's going to put him over the top is the people you don't hear from.
See,
that deep down like him.
I think it's the people that just don't bother, that don't like him but don't bother. That to me is the biggest enemy, and that's what put him in last time.
The Epstein stuff, when you read those stories, he had that island, was it in the Caribbean?
The island of misfit kids, yeah.
Yes.
And that's the thing that bothers me about this Epstein story. No, but it is.
It's a terrible story. And the Lolita Express, and Clinton has now come out that he
was there a few times.
Not a few times, like multiple times.
Right.
Like they checked the logbooks and they tried to doctor the logbooks, and now it's come out that he was on there way more than he ever admitted.
And obvious, and he has the history with Monica Lewinsky, although she wasn't underage, still
and
a young woman.
Women, yep.
So,
who, by the way, had a great tweet with this whole thing.
Monica did?
Yeah.
What'd she say?
Well, somebody had. See if I can find it. Somebody had put something like something like everybody needs to get on their knees or something like that about Trump. Like we should all be praising him. We should all be on our knees for Trump. And then some other comic wrote, who's going to tell him, like, this is not the way this is worded? And she writes, not me.
Right. Right.
I score one for Monica.
But this is seedy stuff. And now Prince Andrew's come out and said...
Prince Andrew, man.
I mean, can they tie him to that island, I wonder?
Well, that's
well,
the
yes,
thing.
There's a girl who has come out and has said...
but you need documentation.
Well, here's the problem.
Right.
Now,
I would think.
Yeah, even if they find documentation, they can't... Probably, I'm not a lawyer, but I don't think they can even put it in because someone can always claim, well, he's dead.
No.
We can't ask him what this document is.
Right.
Did he write it? Did he not write it? Did he just say that out of spite? Is he just putting people on a list because he knows he's going to get caught? All this stuff now comes up, and they can't answer it because he's dead.
Which leads us back to the conspiracy.
Right.
People made sure that he was dead.
Right.
Because when was that? The trial was coming up at some point.
Yeah.
Now, apparently there's co-conspirators, people around him that can still...
The woman, the one woman,
are still going to have to answer some questions.
Yes.
But you're right. He was killed for a reason.
Yeah.
as the conspiracy would go.
Everyone's going to say that was on that flight and did anything. Hey, I was around him. I didn't know about that. He was a bad dude. Look, he was already thrown in jail. I cut myself off from it.
Yeah.
Who knows what he was putting in those books or whatever. They're all lies. Look, he's already doing horrible things to children. It's not a big jump to say he's a liar as well. And he's trying to bring more people down with him.
And the co-conspirators now, if this was a hit, whoever had him killed, they've covered all the bases. They realize even if the co-conspirators talk, it's not enough now for them to get nailed. But even he was handled with kid gloves through the reason he was in jail. I mean, prior to that.
He wasn't really in jail.
No, I mean, Joe Average suffers a lot more of a consequence than he did.
Well, yeah.
And so now it was getting down and dirty and serious, and the guy ends up dead. I mean, I just find it
there's still a conspiracy that he's not dead. That it's just another body, and he's on the island. And
well, the person
that one too, right?
The person that they're after right now is Ghislaine Maxwell, who was his girlfriend,
that's the lady, yeah,
and
who groomed all the girls,
and Madam, yeah. So she's got actually probably all the logbooks, and so she would have all that same information.
Yes.
So you can go after her. I mean, the thing is, I actually think in some ways the accusers are going to be more likely to come out now that he's dead and say, this happened to me, or whatever. Because I don't know. I think because he can't defend himself. Not that it seems like there was much to defend.
But everything can now be put on him.
That's true. He becomes the scapegoat. Yeah.
Plus, and to pull it back, if I'm Jeffrey Epstein and I'm facing all those charges, disgusting, and there doesn't seem to be any way out, maybe I do want to kill myself.
Oh, no, of course.
For sure you want to kill
He's not going to have a good life. He's going to be in jail. Now, someone said, well, he could just pay his way. He's got all this money. He can pay for protection.
Mm-hmm.
You can pay for protection. I'm not an expert on this, but I'm sure there'll be someone somewhere who wants to make a name for themselves that will try to get at him because of what he did to kids, and no amount of money was going to save him.
Yeah.
And he was definitely, for the rest of his life, and it might not be long because how old he was going to be a pretty brutal life.
And when you think, if he is a billionaire, he's worth hundreds of millions of dollars. He could have any woman he wanted.
Yeah, but it's not about that.
No, I know it's not about that. It's a sickness. It's definitely the man's sick in the head.
Yeah. He didn't want women. That was part of the problem.
Right. He wanted children.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, how sad and sickening is that when he had everything he could have ever wanted?
I mean, that argument's used all the time.
I know.
When a multi-billionaire kills himself, it's like, look, you can buy happiness with all your money.
Yeah, but you can't.
Why can't you just restart your life and go buy an island? I mean, there's things that people, their own mental issues and mental problems,
well, Trump uses that argument whenever a sexual, accuser comes out against him. Well, she's not my type. She's not
pretty.
A 10 or whatever.
Yeah, I can afford a 10.
That's not. Of course you can. That has nothing to do with it. We all know it has nothing to do with it. It's about a lot of other things other than who you can afford to buy to have sex with.
Just evil, evil, evil. I mean that. And has there ever been any like that island? Like, is there footage?
Of course there.
What's it like? What's it look like?
I'm sure there's footage somewhere. Come on.
And it's probably like.
Well, what's interesting is that one of the main
the Playboy Mansion for kids or something.
One of the main accusers said she was picked out of Mar-a-Lago. She was 16 and I don't know how she's 16 and working at Mar-a-Lago. That's already problematic. But anyway, she's.
It's a tennis ball. There's all kinds of things on a resort that kids can do. It's not always about alcohol and working in bars.
I guess. I remembered not being able to get a real job when I was 16 because I was too young. But yeah, maybe, I guess. Yeah, like a summer job
or whatever.
And stories behind those kids that can be talked into that. I mean, it's all horrible. To bring it back to the conspiracy, I heard a guy last night say that the cell that he was in New York City, it would be almost impossible to hang yourself.
Right.
Yet they're saying he hung himself because there's marks on his neck, more consistent with choking.
Interesting.
On and on and on and on.
Well, they better come up with all of it. I mean, there better be, even if there's no security footage, usually do they not take pictures and stuff like that when they discover the body? Like, that's going to come out.
Yeah, but it's all got to come back. It's, again, I can't wait for the next few days to find out if there's footage. If there's no footage.
Yeah.
And there's also another conspiracy that someone said that they talked to someone that was in the prison, and there's a policy of when you bring someone in on the weekend, there's all these checks and balances, which they didn't do. They just brought him in. So there's also a conspiracy that he might not even been alive when they brought him into that other area.
Oh, right.
He might already be dead.
Oh,
and they just the next day, oh my God, he's dead. There's no camera footage.
Somebody paid somebody for something.
Of
I mean,
course.
but was it just him paying off somebody to kill himself? I don't know.
Can you
There's
imagine
that
all,
conspiracy? He may have paid someone to do it.
Yeah.
Can you imagine all that back and forth communication, phone calls about we got to get rid of this guy, or we're all done.
Yeah. Good. Burn.
All right, everyone. Thank you very much for a fine first show without Howard. Darren Frost, thank you for coming.
Woo.
Amanda, Phil, Sean, Justin. Hamilton's Comedy Superstation, Funny 820. It's the Humble and Fred Show. You can hear the podcast later today at humbleandfredradio.com.
This episode of Humble and Fred Radio is brought to you by FYI Music News, The Retirement Sherpa, Gig Sky, The Chambers Plan, Strain Print, Freedom Construction, Ringside MD, and Clear Air Solutions. We broadcast to the world from the Humble and Fred Queensway National Broadcast Center. More Humble and Fred tomorrow and online at humbleandfredradio.com.
Okay. Just a little. I had promised, and I forgot to mention, Sean was just going to do a couple of stories here. So put your headsets back on and feel free to comment.
Yeah, this was one story that you wanted me to bring up.
All right.
It was an article in the New York Times, basically titled, "Do Older People Smell Different?" And the consensus is actually in the scientific community is there is no conclusion to this actual answer because everyone answers it differently, and they look at it from all different perspectives. So like there's a scientist that did a study in Japan on this and found that because elderly people have more chronic diseases and it's later in their life, those actually do show up as scents and smells in humans.
Oh.
So that is one reason they think that elderly people stink a little bit more than younger people. But
well, older people wash less than I remember when I was like 17. I'd shower twice a day. Now, it's like, maybe every day, maybe.
But that's what, and then there was a study done in India on the same thing, and what they said was millennials and that age group shower less, so they actually smell more than their grandparents and that generation.
Ew.
So there's really no answer to this question, but there's a huge article in the New York Times. It's like a full-page thing.
Sure.
On who smells more.
Well,
old
let's
people
just
or
go
young
on the
people?
TTC and find out. I'm sure we can
it's
do a
everywhere.
random sampling. Oldie Joe over there really smells bad.
Yeah, I guess it's just it comes to the individual because your own personal hygiene. I mean, old people, I sort of associate urine, right? Like a little bit of incontinence.
Right.
Yeah.
That little whiff of urine, maybe they don't even know.
I think that's a thing.
Oh, it's definitely a thing.
Yeah.
Sure. Definitely a thing.
Not for me, but yeah, I hear you.
I mean,
well, you're not old enough.
Yeah, sure.
I know. Yeah, not for me either, but I mean, it's a thing.
My grandma always smelled like a combination of like baby powder and like Arm
But that's
Hammer
the thing. It's also the
baking
products.
soda
It's
or
the
something.
products, right? Like,
Yes.
is perfume a bad smell? Like sometimes older people wear too much of
Right.
that, right? So that's kind of off-putting. So what is it by definition they mean by smell? Just any smell or a bad smell?
Do you molt more as an old person? Does that stink?
I think you're eating a lot more soup. I think you're eating
Yeah.
chicken soup.
Chicken soup.
That's because honestly, chicken soup it's that when you walk into a nursing home,
Mm-hmm.
it's that chicken soup meets body.
Yeah, but that
smell.
It's not quite
but
the
that
onion
Meets
flavor.
pee-pee.
It's just the
but,
chicken broth.
But that chicken soup smell isn't chicken soup.
Ew.
It's something else.
But
no, it is.
Don't they feed them chicken soup? Because they don't have teeth. You lose your teeth and you drink a lot of chicken soup.
Because I remember as a kid in school, too, kids that didn't have the best hygiene smelled like chicken soup, but it wasn't chicken soup. It was certain combinations of body.
Sweat and skin cells.
Yeah.
And certain
And wool.
disorders.
If you wear a lot of wool, it can kind of stay. I remember I had a guy I used to date, and he always had that sort of chicken soupy kind of kind of smell.
And it's not chicken soup.
I didn't enjoy it, guys.
Darren, you don't shower every day necessarily?
It's all about timing now.
Really?
You know, and sometimes it's every other day. I try to still do every day, but it's not like when I was like 18 and you're cranking it out every day. You're like, I'm showering too every day, right? So it was like a thing. Get up in the morning, shower. Get up, shower. I used to have a rule on the road. Every time, I went number 2, I'd shower. So if I ate at Taco Bell, I'd shower a lot. That was the old joke, but that was the reality. That was the reality. But now it's like, yeah, all right, well.
Okay, if you don't shower a particular day, would you still change your underwear?
Yes.
What kind of underwear do you wear?
Boxer briefs.
I think that's the regular now. Everyone's going to those.
A particular brand?
Whatever's on sale at Costco. Come on, I'm over 40.
Exactly.
Come on, I'm over 40.
Kirkland.
They don't have holes in them.
Yeah, Kirkland.
That's good.
What do I have?
Kirkland.
No, these
For the
Adidas
record,
ones.
you're showing me your underwear. Go ahead.
They're Adidas.
Yeah.
Like three for $20, and they hold the nuggets really nice.
Right.
They do.
Yeah.
Oh, I got the sacks. They actually got the walls along the
Yeah,
side.
but you're from a rich family.
Well, my mom likes to treat me nice.
He is a rich sack.
Those sacks, they're like $20 a pair.
They are. They are. They're not cheap underwear.
I'm never going $20 a pair. I'll go 3 for $20.
Sure, but you'll spend $1.50 on a hot dog. I see how you work.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And a drink sold.
I know.
Let's go get some more underwear. I'm saving myself lunch.
That's the best dinner there is. That's the cheapest
course.
dinner there is
Yeah.
that $1.50 Costco hot dog
Uh-huh.
and Diet
So
Coke.
good, too.
I'm going to tell this.
So good.
I'm going to tell this story again, and I think I told it recently. It was my IKEA hot dog story. Have you ever heard that one?
You know what? If I might have and forgotten.
First of all, I didn't know there was IKEA hot dogs, so go ahead.
Yeah.
There are, yeah.
IKEA hot dogs, 2 for $1.
Oh, the
right?
steamy
Years
kind
ago.
of. Yeah, right. Yep.
So I was sort of on I won't say a diet, watching what I was eating, and I looked and I was hungry, and I went up to the counter, and there was a kid there, and I said, I looked up and I saw 2 hot dogs for $1, and I said, can I buy just one? And the kid says to me, sir, it's $1. Give one away.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was great. And you know what? I started laughing.
Sure.
I thought, theoretically, that's pretty snarky of the kid to say to a customer. But it was just one of those kids that just didn't give a shit, right?
I love it.
Sir, give one away. And I thought, wow. And I just started laughing.
Just convince yourself you're paying $1 for that hot dog.
Yeah.
Instead of
was
50
great.
cents for your lunch.
Oh, that's
Okay.
great. Cool.
That'll do it.
Yeah, I got to say
Thank you,
some
Darren.
stories. We got a couple of stories we do have to talk about eventually this week. We
Tomorrow.
didn't bring up that
Yes, we will.
sea to sky gondola thing that happened.
Okay.
What?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Tomorrow.
Right on.
news.
We will.
All right.
All right. Thanks, Darren. Thanks,
Cheers,
Amanda.
guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
See you tomorrow. Loving you. Goodbye, Phil. See you, Phil.